Hey everybody, it's Rebecca Johnson of Supergirl Radio. We're just getting the live stream started here, trying to be punctual, right on time, 9 p.m. Eastern. So we will get started here in a little bit. Officially get started. Just trying to vamp a little bit until all parties are here. So if anybody has any questions or comments that they would like to put in the chat, I will try to answer them. I can also update everybody on Supergirl Radio scheduling here as far as we know it. So this week we're doing a call-in show format. So we're going to be talking about the legacy of the CW Supergirl. So we have some rules. We'll get into that when we officially get started. So we do have some rules laid out for that. Pretty simple rules, just stick to the topic and be cool. That's basically what it's going to boil down to. But we'll share those when we officially get started. So that's what we're doing this week. Then next week, we're going to be doing our season 6 retrospective. We do that every year after the season finishes. And this year we kind of had to switch the schedule. We were going to do that before the legacy episode, and then we had to read all that feedback. So we had to flip our schedule a little bit. So I think some people were confused that we weren't doing the retrospective, but we are. So no worries on that. So next week we'll do the retrospective. And then the week after that, I think we're going to do some sort of Christmas movie review starring someone in the Supergirl or Arrowverse, universe. So we haven't nailed down which movie we're going to pick yet. There's some toss-up between Laura Vandervoort, Terry Hatcher, and a Brandon Routh Christmas movie with kittens. So that one might win out. I don't know. So that's kind of where 2021 is probably going to wrap up. So, stay tuned for that. So it looks like we've got Morgan here. So I'm going to pop Morgan in. Hello. How are you?
Hello, I'm good.
Good. I see a Christmas tree in the background.
Yes, we have Rudolph and the Christmas tree.
Nice.
And
I
if
see
you-
Rudolph. He's very
look
recognizable.
Above, that's a Santa.
I see a Santa.
I also have this. This
Oh,
is Mickey and
cute.
Minnie. We've decorated clearly.
Festive just in time. Now, did y'all do this before Thanksgiving? You did.
Yes, we did.
That's
We did
okay.
do that.
I mean, you're just
we thought we might be busy like Thanksgiving weekend, so we're like, let's just get it over with now.
No, I get it.
We've
I
been
think
living
that's
in that
good.
winter wonderland for a while.
I usually try to leave Christmas decorations up until like mid-January. I never want to get
do
rid
that
of the
too.
Christmas. I never want to get rid of the Christmas tree lights. But yeah, so I guess we'll go ahead and officially get started with our live stream. But
apparently, Katie McGraw was in something called Buttons: A Christmas Tale.
Now that could be a contender if you wanted to revisit Katie McGrath Christmas movies. Like we could just only do Katie McGrath Christmas movies if you want.
Buttons: A Christmas Tale.
I think that also has Dick Van Dyke in it.
No, really?
I think so. So we could explore that option as well.
Like, who is Buttons? What is Buttons? I have questions based solely on the title.
So it's a toss-up on whether we want to do all Katie McGrath Christmas movies or if we want to just mix it up. Like, see somebody else in a Hallmark Christmas movie. We want to do that. So we will have to decide that at least the week that we are going to do that. We'll still ponder over it, I guess. Maybe we'll have the listeners decide.
Maybe we'll like narrow it down to 4 and we'll do a Twitter poll.
Yeah, let's do a poll. And then that way we don't have to decide.
Then it's not on us. If people want a kitten for Christmas, if people want buttons, who are we to deny them?
All right, so that's decided. We'll narrow it down and then we will do a Twitter poll. So look out for that coming up in the week. All right. Well, Morgan, I think we shall get started. As a reminder, this is a call-in show format this week. So if you would like to be on the live stream with us, there is a link in the video description that you can click on. It's StreamYard, so it works a lot like Zoom, and we'll explain all of that when we get started. But if you are wanting to join us to talk about these things, feel free to do that, and we'll bring you on. All right, I guess we shall get started because we may or may not have a lot of people showing up, but hopefully we do. I see two people already waiting in the wings. So let's get started officially with the live stream, and then we'll get started.
Melissa Benoist, and you're listening to Supergirl Radio.
McGurk! I love
Not
typing.
mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira. I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom. Because
She looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. So fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Welcome to Supergirl Radio, your source for all things related to the CW Supergirl TV series and the character of Kara Zor-El. My name is Rebecca Johnson.
I'm Morgan Glennon.
And for this episode of the podcast, we are live and wired to discuss the legacy of the CW Supergirl with you, the viewer. If you would like to chat with us, click the StreamYard link in the video description below of this live stream and just follow the prompts. It's pretty easy. StreamYard works a lot like Zoom, so if you've been using that platform a lot, it will seem familiar to you and should be pretty easy to use. Just enter your name, select your camera and your audio if you so choose to do both. You'll be able to join the live stream from a desktop or a laptop computer, as well from a smartphone or tablet device, if that is your preferred method of joining. If you don't want to be on camera, it's okay. No worries about that. We understand. You can just turn your camera off and still join the live stream with audio only. So if you're watching this and you're like, I don't want to be on camera, I get that. So you can just join with just your audio and just turn your camera off, and that should be fine. So please join if you would like. We'll be here for, a couple hours, and we'll bring in as many people as we can. But before we start bringing people into the live stream, we need to go over some rules, because I think we need to establish some rules for this call-in show, because it could get out of hand if we don't have any rules. So
we don't want it to be too wild in here. Just the right amount.
This could get out of control. So we will be asking you the following questions. We have 2 questions, and I would love it if people stayed on topic, just so that we can get a real perspective on this topic. So the first question is, what would you like to see future Supergirl stories pull from the CW Supergirl? So in the future, new stories are being told or produced. What would you like to see them pull from the show? The second question is a very deep question. And this is a question that they asked during the DC Fandom
It's a real thinker, this
special. And it's, how has Supergirl impacted your life? So I'm very curious about those 2 questions. So we would love it if you guys would come on the live stream and talk and answer those 2 questions. So depending on how many people we have backstage, we have about 3 right now. So I see everybody. Stay with us. We'll need to limit our conversation with each individual, depending on how many people we have. Right now, I think it's a manageable number. So we can maybe spend 5 to 10 minutes with everybody. So it just kind of depends on what we've got going on. So we just want to make sure we have room for everyone on the stream so that everybody has a chance to speak. So we'll try to keep our eyes on that so we can get everybody in. And the last one is very important. We reserve the right to kick anyone out of the live stream who isn't playing well with others. So please be on your best behavior. If you're being a jerk, we're going to kick you out. So just, really the rules are boiled down to stay on topic, be patient, and be cool. I think that pretty much covers it. So hopefully that's not too much of a pain, but I think that will help us stay on task and be concise with it. So in I guess that's a good cue to start bringing people in, Morgan. So it looks like the first person who joined us was Mark. So I'm gonna pull Mark in here. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Doing pretty well. So Mark, I'm going to pose 2 questions to you. And so just answer them in your most honest way that you possibly can. So in the
answer
future,
from your heart.
Answer from your
Yes.
heart. So if you were to pick up a Supergirl comic 5-10 years from now, or you see a new Supergirl movie or TV show, what do you hope that those iterations of the character pull from the CW Supergirl TV show that we just finished watching 6 seasons of. What do you hope they pull from that? What do you think that would be good to contribute to new stories?
Oh, not Leviathan.
Oh, wait, hold on. But what if it's Leviathan, but we finally find out who the head of Leviathan is?
But then that would be Talia and Rebecca will be mad.
As long as she dies in the end, I'm cool.
She can finally get that takedown she's always wanted.
She dies a gruesome, grisly death. I'm cool.
Yeah. No. The legit answer is probably the obvious one, but I'm first, so I get to grab it as Alex.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't have to make her, an adoptive sister or whatever, but in all the Supergirl stories I've read, she's never really had a truly close friend on Earth other than her cousin. And given her someone like that to be almost like in a big sister role somehow, that would be a really neat addition to the Supergirl mythology. I'd love to see Alex brought in somehow.
Yeah, she was in the Adventures of Supergirl run, written by Sterling Gates, and it worked out beautifully, I think.
It's a great run.
Yeah, so yeah. I think it's easy to work her in, and I think she really did bring a lot, adding Alex to the show. So I think it's possible. You have to establish her in some way, but I think it's doable.
Yeah, I think it would work out really well.
Yeah,
we see how well she plays with Ruth in Woman of Tomorrow.
Yes. I think Supergirl does work pretty well when she's with someone else, kind of a companion. So I think that would be pretty cool. And you're right, Mark, that I'm trying to think of all the iterations of Supergirl I've read in the comics. She's had, like, Lena is a close friend of hers in the Silver Age, and she has, like, some college friends when she's at her various college institutions. She goes to 3 colleges, so depending on which one you're talking about, she does have friends at school, but it's nothing quite like an Alex Danvers. So I think that would be a good addition to the mythology. So Alex is a pretty good suggestion. What do you think about that, Morgan? Do you think hopefully we'll see Alex Danvers again?
I mean, if you asked me that question, I think that would have been my answer too. I would have been like, yes, let's have Alex Danvers in. I mean, I like the sister relationship, so I would even go beyond and say, like, I like the idea of Supergirl having a sister. I think that was a really cool thing that the TV show brought to the mythology, and I wouldn't mind seeing that again in the future, whether it's like in the comics or if it's in a movie or in another TV show in the future. I would love to see Alex Danvers end up becoming kind of part of the Supergirl sort of mythology in the canon.
Yeah, and it's something that separates her out from Superman, because until Superman and Lois, spoiler alert, Cal has not had a brother, to my knowledge. I'm sure there's various Superman comics, so maybe I'm missing one where he's had a brother, but I think it's pretty rare for him to be depicted as having a brother, so that separates her out and makes her a little different from Superman. So I think that would be good to see in the future. So Mark, this is the deep question, so we're really going to get into it here. So how has Supergirl impacted your life?
Oh, well, it got me to start listening to podcasts, because I really wasn't listening to podcasts before this one.
Oh, really? So Supergirl Radio got you into podcasts?
Yes,
exciting.
Exactly, y'all.
Did we set the bar too high or too low?
I think we set the bar real medium.
You're doing an intensely adequate podcast.
Good. We'll take that as a compliment.
That's going to be like our tagline.
We're going to use that in all of our promotional. Yeah. So what were you going to say, Mark? Sorry.
Oh, no. Beyond that, I'm not sure that she's affected my life, but I've got some nieces I adore, and they were just becoming tweens when the show came on the air, and I took and showed them that 15-minute preview that CBS released from their upfronts that year that basically was the entirety of the pilot with at least all the actual story points from the pilot thrown into it. And I think that especially that first season when Kat was on there and they had that mentor young adult relationship between her and Kara, I think that was a really exceptional year of television, to be honest. And that mentoring aspect of it and Kara's growth through that year was something I'm glad that those young girls got to watch. So
Yeah, season 1 is really excellent when you go back and watch it, and I think you make a really good point, and I'd be curious to talk to other young ladies who started watching it when they were younger and how that might have impacted them. Because Kara is, she's on a journey and she kind of goes through a lot of hard times, but she, comes out at a good place at the end of season 1, and I think that's good for young women to see somebody who works hard. Well, in season 1, I felt like Kara worked a little harder than she did in later seasons, but she works hard and she tries to do the right thing all the time, and I think that's really wonderful. And so I'm glad that your nieces have had that experience with Supergirl. So I guess you've answered our 2 questions. Mark, do you have any final thoughts before you leave? Before we kick you out of here?
No, but thank you for having me on, and I'm glad that they couldn't cancel the show again like they did the last time you did this. So.
I know.
I mean, what bad news can come our way today that would make us all sad?
Yeah, exactly. Sasha Kaje is no longer in the Flash movie.
Oh, don't even put it out there. But, well, I just want to personally thank you, Mark, for being such a loyal listener to Supergirl Radio and contributing through feedback. You've been on the podcast before, so thank you for what you've done to contribute to what we do here at Supergirl Radio. And so hopefully we'll continue that conversation even after we stop discussing the show for a little while. We'll probably always discuss the show to some degree, but it's been nice to have that perspective from you. And so we really just appreciate you being part of what we do.
Well, it's my pleasure, and believe me, thank you for all the joy you've brought to my commutes over the last 6 or 7 years.
Good. I'm glad we can be in your either earbuds or your speakers. Yep. That's good to know. All right. Well, thank you for joining us for the Collins Show. We're going to get to our next person joining the live. They're not really callers and nobody's calling in, but we'll get to our next person. So thank you, Mark. We're going to say goodbye to you, but maybe we'll have you back on to maybe talk about some comics. We should talk about some comics. Yeah. All right. Well, we will see you later, Mark. And I think the next person who joined us was Tyler. So Tyler, if you're ready, we're going to bring you in. Tyler,
hey.
How's it going?
Hey, I just thought I'd call, so I could call in. Like, yeah. Hey, how's it going?
It is a call-in show. I don't know what else to call it. I mean, is there a better way to phrase that? I don't know.
It makes the most sense. Like, it's just kind of how how you say on video or an album or we made a record. Journal terms that don't always translate to the physical like they used to. So yeah, call-in works.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to workshop that. Maybe call-in show is a dated term. We'll have to figure out another way to do that. But thank you for joining us, Tyler. Tyler, if people remember, was on Supergirl Radio not too long ago, while Morgan was on her honeymoon. Tyler came
Congratulations,
to be a substitute and did a great job and hung in there with me. And we talked about Supergirl. So now that you're back on, so what are some of the things that you saw in the TV show, in the CW Supergirl TV show, that you would want to see in future storytelling and iterations of the character?
Well, this was kind of hard at first because I had to really think, and then like Supergirl in the comics has been a character that's been rebooted, revamped, retooled, like all this. But I got thinking, and I couldn't remember. I really like the idea of Martian Manhunter being a mentor.
Yeah.
Because, most often she comes and she's always very cocky, I know I can do this on my own. And she has Cal, right? Which is cool. But I like the degree of separation. And because there's always this great parallel between Martian Manhunter and Cal, both being the last supposedly of their race on most stories and everything. But the idea that she makes a bond with Jean and has this mentor, that's not family, and I really like that. I mean, he took the Alex answer. I mean, so because I agree with everything that Mark said about, and you girls were saying about Kara having more earthbound sensibilities, and then in the comics they did start, I think it was it Rebirth when they started making her work for like the DEO and stuff, and
Yeah,
they tried to
it was
copy
Rebirth.
they tried to copy the show, which the comics often do. And Supergirl is a great character, and sometimes it's often hard not to just kind of like use the Superman template, and we want to carve out her own identity more and more. And I like the mentor role, and I don't want to take it. I like when she fought the witches in season 3.
Oh yeah.
Ooh,
Like
yeah, that was fun.
the Kryptonian cultist witches. I think that could be something that could come back around. But
Yeah, Selena did appear in Rebirth as well. So I think that's a great suggestion because Selena only had previously appeared in Supergirl the movie. She was a wonderful, campy, well dressed Selena, and so it would be nice if she became more of a regular character who would be in Supergirl's orbit. I think that would be really cool. And we didn't really get much of like Selena as a character. It was always like Rain had much more of a presence. Selena was just kind of the puppet master. So I would love to see Selena more.
And I mean,
for sure,
Rain, the way they did on the show, I liked, because it's definitely a departure from Rain from the comics.
No, for sure.
So I'll just say that, like, that could be something cool that could be weaved in the mythology and kept. I mean, I would have loved for her to return, and and in comics that's always easy to do. So
good points. So Morgan, what do you think about adapting Martian Manhunter to continue that mentor space dad role? And also, what do you think about maybe bringing Selena back?
Oh yeah, Space Dad 100%. That's like, I feel like we're getting like the top level ones here. Like Alex, check. Space Dad, check. But I like that we're getting some deep cuts now. Like the witches is not one that I would have immediately thought of, but they were really fun. Like that whole Rain storyline with Selena and the different witches and like the world killers and the stupid Kryptonian witch who was my favorite.
The dumb one. What was her name? Ooh.
Then she came back and she wasn't as dumb, and I was like, "Crisis ruins everything."
and Brainy, and she was Brainy, like she went into Brainy. Do you remember that? She, like, Brainy became her. Yeah.
The last person's gonna be like, I like that Supergirl likes coffee. That she got coffee every morning.
I think there should be more pot stickers in the
can she start baking? Can we keep baking a thing?
I mean, William could pop up in future
R.I.P.
stories.
Man,
R.I.P.
I do want to say I want to say I like when she's more that teen vein a little bit.
Yeah.
Like that at the cusp of ending her teens and embracing adulthood compared to being like later in her 20s. But
yeah, I think there's a lot to explore there that I don't think they've really done much of, because even with the Rebirth run, she was early on in Rebirth, she was a teenager, she was in high school, but they sort of treated her like she was an adult. There wasn't I mean, she like went to prom or something, like a dance or something with Ben, but other than that, it didn't feel like she was a teenager for the most part. Yeah, so those are all good suggestions. I would love to read or watch those Supergirl stories in the future. So, Tyler, I'm going to ask you the very deep question that we're going to get to. It's a fun question and then a very deep question. How has Supergirl impacted your life?
Now, my question about this question,
Oh.
Are you talking about the character or the show?
In this case, we're talking about the show.
Just wanted to make sure. I would say it's kind of an interesting answer because one, in my podcasting history, I was working on a Gotham podcast, and then when this show was announced, and so was Krypton, they were just going to include it, and I was like, no, I want to do the show. I want to carve out my own show dedicated to Supergirl and dedicated to Krypton. And so, of course, Supergirl came out first, and everything, it took off. So the show to me was kind of how I started doing my own podcast with Krypton Report, which is, all things Kryptonian based. So the show meant that a lot that way. It also, when I look at it, my son was born the same year the show debuted. So I've watched this show in the background as he has grown, and then my daughter was born, who has become a fan and of the show, which I'm going to go back and we're going to do like a season 1 rewatch, and she's going to watch it and stuff with me. So my kids have learned and plugged in with this show, so that has a huge impact. Is like that's been in the background over the past 6 years. So that's why it's made an impact, is because it also gave me something to show my daughter of more of Supergirl, because before that, like, there's like random episodes of the animated series, there's the old movie, and even with that, like, sometimes kids just don't attach themselves unless it's like the newer thing. So that's been a big part of like what the show, and I'm excited that I have the series I can show her again, and she can kind of experience it. And even my sons liked it, and it's been a great, because she's definitely a character I think that deserved to shine, because I've always loved the similarities she has to Superman and her family, but also that stark difference that of where she comes from, her mission, who she is, and how that can kind of be against what Cal has. So I think she's a great character to mine that just was ready for her time in the light.
Yeah, I agree. I was glad that, even though there were some episodes or seasons that I wasn't crazy about, I'm really glad there was a Supergirl TV series. It was something that I think always could have happened. And so I'm glad that we got the 6 seasons that we did, because she is a great character. And I think especially like season 1 is a great entry point for, you and your family, because there's a lot of focus on family there. And I think that's a great starting point for your kids. So that's a really wonderful thing that you get to share that with them.
I mean, you just said like you're grateful for the show, and there was some stuff. I mean, come on, I'm a Smallville fan. We had 10 seasons, and not all of them, not every episode was gold. Okay?
That is for sure true.
We're like, yay, 10 seasons, but we're like,
to be fair, there was never an episode of Supergirl entirely about gum, and for that we should be grateful, right?
Smallville fans are really put through the ringer. Everybody who finishes Smallville should get like a little medal or something.
You did it.
Yeah, you did it. Congratulations. So yeah, I think that's something to look back and say, hey, we got a Supergirl series for 6 seasons, and half of it at least was pretty good. So, I think that's it's good to be able to share those things with your family and with your kids. And so I think that's awesome that you get to share that with them.
We got an amazing Lex Luthor out of the series. So
that's true. That's true. He stuck around for maybe too long, but he was awesome. He was awesome.
I think we got a great Luthor family in general out of this series. We got a great Lillian, got great Lena, great Lex.
So we may be stealing somebody else's answer.
It's like I keep like starting to bite my hand, because I'm like,
if we keep talking about things, we're gonna mention things that we want.
We had great title cards each season when they changed. I was really happy with the different representation of the symbol and the lighting behind it, like much like what's behind you up top.
Yeah, they did try to mix it up, but yeah, the Luthors were a great addition. Especially Lillian existed in Smallville, and so that was something that they pulled from Small. I think Lillian was created for Smallville, but I'd have to check on that.
Was Lionel? I don't remember.
I think Lionel was also created.
Lionel was.
Smallville.
And that's what they said. Lillian was like hit like Lionel's. Like that's what they said was the name of Lex's dad. So yeah.
So they did pull from a previous.
So it's all
Kryptonian
connected,
show.
really.
Yeah.
I mean, it all because like you build that, like you do something, and then it sticks with people. Just I mean, much like in Superman the movie, you have Jonathan Kent die as a catalyst for Clark to decide he needs to go on his sojourn. And that's kind of stuck with people. And so every version of Superman is like, we got to kill Jonathan Kent. And I'm like, no, you don't.
Kill Jonathan now.
No, you don't. You don't have to
agree
do this.
Had to happen? Sorry, Jonathan.
Yeah, but that's true. I mean, a lot of these things can just, be things that become cemented in the mythology that everybody wants to keep, as stability in these stories. So, Tyler, we may have to let you go because a bunch of people have jumped in backstage.
They're like,
But-
shut up, dude. Get off here. Let me talk.
No. I just wish we had more time with you. Maybe we'll have to bring you back on for another episode.
Anytime.
Sometime in 2022. We'll have to start planning some of those episodes for next year and figure out when we can bring you back in because your expertise and your thoughts are very welcomed here on Supergirl Radio, and we appreciate you being part of our episodes and for being a guest host. I really appreciate you helping me out when Morgan was out.
Totally appreciate it.
When you announced this, I was like, oh, I'm definitely calling in. That'd be fun to do. So
nice. Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts. We will be kicking you out. But thank you for your time, and we will now move on to the next person. And I want to make sure that I can kick people out so that we can make room for other people, just in case
new people to arrive.
Someone else is trying to get back. If you couldn't get back in because it was full, try again. All right, so it looks like the next person we have on deck is Donna. So Donna, if you are available, Donna, are you there?
I'm
awesome.
Here.
Awesome.
I'm here. I'm doing you a favor by not being shown because I've been out putting up Christmas decorations all day.
Hey, I understand.
As you can see, I'm already on that.
That is understandable. That is a lot of work. So no problem. So just as a reminder, if people are watching and they want to join the live stream, you don't have to be on camera. You can just be audio only. Just make sure to turn your camera off and that should be fine. Well, Donna, we have two questions we're asking everybody, and so we're going to prompt those to you. So the first question, Donna, is what aspects of the CW Supergirl would you like to see pop up in future Supergirl stories?
Well, you two know me and you know why I love the show so much. So unfortunately Mark got to it before I did. But I'd say definitely Alex, just that relationship. But maybe from the perspective that maybe we could finally get to see all of those wonderful Danvers sister stories that the show forgot, that really could have done, take Alex, see how Alex is looked upon in the future. Take her to Argo and see how they respect her for being the protector of the last daughter of Krypton. And here's a big one. How about Red Daughter? And Red Daughter with Alex, because that was her first words were Alex.
Right.
And we got to see one scene of Alex with Red Daughter.
Yeah, that would be a great one. I feel like they did that storyline didn't ever feel like it was as fully fleshed out as I would have liked it to be, honestly. So like I would love it if we had another version of that.
Yeah, and with the Danvers sisters, you could do various points in their lives. You could go back to Midvale. You could do more Midvale stories. And Donna, from what I understood about what you were saying, you could do stories with Alex and Kelly and little Esme and continue that story. We could see the News Gal Legion in the comics. I mean that you could tell various things that the
what
show
I
wasn't
always
able to do.
always wanted to see was well, besides my I regret we never got was my Danvers sisters karaoke duet, but but one even like a body swap.
Oh, that would be fun. I think maybe we talked about that one time on Supergirl Radio,
I think we did. Just what would happen and how well did they really know each other and how that they would act while being the other one.
Yeah, I could see if if we are blessed with another Supergirl TV show sometime in the future, a Freaky Friday body swap would be really fun. I think that you could easily do that.
Yeah, I think that's and I think that was one of the things that I missed most is a lot of the times or later in the seasons we got, even as layered as the first season was, it was still fun. And I think they got away from the fun and started focusing too much on issues in later seasons.
Yeah, they had giant cats, but they also still wanted to talk about the topical issues that they
Yeah.
wanted to discuss. So they tried to layer in giant cats and kryptonite dragons every now and then, but it wasn't enough for me personally. I would have wanted more giant cats.
More characters randomly becoming witches.
I mean,
Yeah.
Let's go
Okay.
all out.
just lean into it. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, no, that's a really good point that they could do more silly things and have a lot more fun with it. You can tell serious stories, but also have a little little fun with it.
Look, they did it.
I
Look
agree
at
with it.
season. I mean, look at season 1. That's all season 1 was. It was comic book stories, but they were telling it well, and they were giving us character growth from both characters. All 3 of the main characters: Supergirl, Alex, and Martian Manhunter. I mean, that there are key moments, and I think I touched on these in an article or something, but there are key moments that will always stand out in Supergirl. One of them being the revelation of John as Martian Manhunter. That is just such a great scene. The formation of the Space Family. Alex is coming out. The As silly as it was, touch the grass, but all of those things that we remember and we smile or laugh or we remember fondly when we remember them.
Yeah, I think those kinds of moments are, when I look back at it, those are the kinds of things that stick out to me, or the ones that I really, really enjoyed. So you mentioned some really great ones there. So I think those are some good suggestions for future stories. If anybody is watching this and you want to write a Supergirl story, we've got a lot of pitches that we can give you. All right, so Donna, we're going to ask you a serious question. And we'll see what you have to say about this. But how has Supergirl, the TV show, Tyler made a good point, we need to clarify, how has Supergirl, the TV show, impacted your life?
I have a two-pronged answer to that. First, professionally, in an odd way, it made me a better writer. I was enjoying the show, loving the show, and I happened to respond to a comment on an article on Spoiler TV about Supergirl. And from the conversation out of the friendship I developed with that writer, I became part of the staff. And 6 years later, I'm still writing for them. I'm going to be covering new shows for them, but it all started with, if I'm not mistaken, it was for a Performer of the Month article on Kyler Lee during season 2. And they asked me to edit. Then I, transitioned from editing into writing. So, and then the last season, I was able to be assigned Supergirl. So it has definitely made me a better writer. I love that. The second thing the impact Supergirl has on me is it's brought me some very incredible new friends from all over the world. Australia, the Philippines, England, Germany, Poland, you name it, and all across the United States. And a number of them I've even met through the podcast.
Oh, through the podcast? We might be losing you a little bit, Donna. Are you still there?
Down, do we lose
Yeah,
you?
I'm here.
Oh, okay.
You're back.
Sorry. You said that
I'm
you
here.
had met some
I'm
people
here.
from the podcast. Is that what you said? That might have been where we lost you.
I mean, I've made friends here on the podcast, just as like I've made friends out in Twitterland. Basically talking about the show, but we've become good friends, and have actually met in person.
Oh, that's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's
Are
one
you
of
there?
Oh, yeah. Can you hear us, Donna?
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I got you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. No. We got you. Yeah, I think that's great that the community of Supergirl has sort of expanded, not even just because of Supergirl Radio, but I know people connect on platforms like Twitter, and I think that's really great. And it's fun for me. I don't want to speak for Morgan, but it's fun for me to see everybody in the live chat interacting with each other. not even just responding to us, but people are responding to each other and having a conversation. And so that delights me and makes me happy that people are becoming friends and developing community with each other, just among yourselves, and totally separate from Morgan and me. So I think that's really great that that has happened. And so I also think it's awesome that you've been been able to write because of the show. I think that's great that you're a voice out there that's sharing your thoughts and opinions on the show. And I think that's awesome that you've been able to have those opportunities and continue to contribute in that capacity. So that's great.
No, well, and I appreciate and I love the idea that you guys are going to keep going. You're not going to, because the show's ended doesn't mean you stop, and that's great too. That we don't have to suddenly lose that part of the family.
Yeah, there's a lot of Supergirl out there, it turns out.
a lot of Supergirl, almost an overwhelmingly huge amount of Supergirl.
The only thing, maybe we can band together and finally convince Funko to make Supergirl Pops.
That would be great.
I mean, that would be great. You could do a whole line of characters that I think deserve a Funko. So maybe we can figure out how to join forces and see if we can make that. It's so strange that they never really did. I think they made a Melissa Benoist one, and that was kind of it.
Yeah, I think that's
they did
that's
do
really it.
That was the only one.
Yeah, so it is cool though that people have made their own custom ones. I think that's pretty remarkable. I've seen a lot of custom and I know, Donna, you have one of the scene from Exodus, which I think is pretty cool. Not only did you get an Alex Funko, you put it together in a scene, which is amazing. So that's pretty cool. That is really cool. Well, Donna, we've got some other people on deck. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I said I'm very proud of that one.
Yes, you should be. It is.
I'm proud of
so
that
good.
one. Man.
Yeah. All right. Well, Donna, I think. Yeah.
I was just going to say thank you for having me, and here's to talking Supergirl again.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to have you back on to talk some Supergirl. And to Donna's point, stay tuned for Supergirl Radio, because we're not going anywhere. And even if people don't like it, we're going to still stick around and talk about Supergirl. All right. So, Donna, we are going to let you go, but we will talk some Supergirl with you later. And let me kick Donna out just in case people don't know. In StreamYard, you can actually literally kick people out, which is a lot of fun. So we are going to bring in our next guest, which looks like it is Dr. Nicole Green. How are you, Nicole?
Hello. Hi, I'm at work.
Doing science and being on the live stream at the same time.
I am trying to do science, but also have some fun.
Just curious, can you talk about what you're working on?
Oh, yeah, it's really boring. I'm just editing images and putting them into PowerPoint so I can stare at them for like an hour tomorrow and try to make sense of what I'm seeing. So I'm literally like moving boxes around right now. It's not exciting at all.
Nice. PowerPoints are tons of fun to put
Everyone
together.
loves PowerPoint. Yes. Get some star wipes in there. I think it's nothing more professional.
I'll just add it just for me. No one else is seeing this, but I like the presentation. So
nice.
Treat yourself.
Good. Well, we are getting together to talk about two questions, Dr. Nicole. So we're going to prompt some questions for you to see what your answers are. So the first one is, we've seen 6 seasons of the CW Supergirl. We know everything that happened there. So which aspects of the show would you like to see in future Supergirl stories?
Yeah, I think I was trying to think about, I don't have some sort of like deep comic knowledge. That's something that this show and this podcast has encouraged me to think more about, but I definitely want to see more Alex. And I think they did a good job with Alex's Sentinel, but I really want to see more of like the everyday Alex, like going back to those roots of like, her as an everyday hero, like a human on the streets, but still powerful in her own rights. And yeah, I'm really enticed too by this idea of seeing the Danvers sisters in college and what that looked like, and how I think we got some glimpses of, how their relationship was maybe tested a little bit, like when Alex went to school. So yeah, I think that would be fun to see them in college and see them at university, and get that perspective maybe.
I would personally love that because the 70s and 80s era of Supergirl comics put Supergirl in college, and some of those are my like favorite stories because it's interesting to see what she gets into, the characters that she interacts with, because a lot of those villains that she comes into contact with when she's in college, some of them are really weird, and some of them are really serious. Like she encounters look up Black Star with 2 R's. She is very intense and heavy because it's relating to the Nazis and the Holocaust. Like it's heavy stuff.
Okay.
So the 70s with her in college is really interesting because they just started to really explore things and get into more sophisticated storytelling, because the Silver Age is kind of like they do 3 things in the story and then the story's over. It's very formulaic. But when you get into the college storytelling in the 70s, it becomes a little more interesting, in my opinion. So I would love to see the comics go back to seeing her maybe in college and what she gets into. And I would love to see it if Kara and Alex could be in there together. So I think that's a great suggestion.
Yeah, as like a side character. I mean, this is for Morgan, but like going back to Hope, like what happened to her? Is she just living on a tabletop? She's sitting she's like sitting in an abandoned lab in Luthor Corp, or she just never existed. And that's so sad to me. I would listen, Hope, come hang out with me in my lab. I need all of the help.
Could you imagine if Hope was like, let's add that to the PowerPoint?
Yes, exactly.
Start wipe.
That's what I need. My presentations would just be the talk of the department. Really.
I think that like we're pitching a spinoff, and it's called Hope the Science Friend.
Yes.
And it's just Hope helping out around the lab.
Yes, we're gonna have to work on those murderous tendencies because that seems like
we're gonna have to pull that back a little bit, because like if anybody crosses you, Hope will be like, Nicole, what if we killed them? And you're gonna have to be like, Hope, no, we've talked about this.
I'd be like, listen, at university we have this thing called collegiality, which is a fine line of being petty but also professional. So like we're gonna learn how to walk that line.
You're gonna Hope, just put in as per my last email.
Yes.
And that is cutting.
Yes.
To the bone.
Gonna teach her the subtlety of like murder, right?
Exactly.
Yes. Metaphorical murder only.
That's also a great suggestion. You could do Hope the AI in future Supergirl stories. I don't know if she would be hanging out with Supergirl, if you would bring Lena into those stories and have her teaming up with Lena. I think that's a really good suggestion.
Lena pops up and she's like, listen, Supergirl, first off, my bad. Second off, my Alexa is killing people.
Definitely.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good suggestion because Hope the AI was kind of the VIP of season 5, I think.
She could have done it all, really. She could have been the hero. She could have been the villain. Like there was
she had a lot of range.
There was so much wasted potential there. We could have done so much more with her.
Yeah, a lot of left on the table, pun intended, for the tabletop.
Oh, yes.
AI. So I think that's something that could definitely show back up for sure. All right, so let's get to the more serious question, Dr. Nicole, the very deep question that we're asking everybody. How has Supergirl, the TV show, changed or impacted your life?
Yeah, I was thinking about this because I think I've maybe said this on a different episode at some point, but I started watching Supergirl like early on in grad school, and Supergirl was a show a lot of times that I watched like I'm in the microscope late at night, let's rewatch season 3 or season 2 or whatever. It's something that I always had on, and then I'd be watching the new seasons. And then after I moved to Iowa, because none of my friends ever watched Supergirl until the very, very recently, so I never had anyone to talk to about it. I kind of like Mark when he said that. I was like, yeah, this is one of the first podcasts I started listening to. I think the first one was officially like a TV podcast for Orphan Black. And I was like, oh, it's just a bunch of people talking about TV shows I love. I can just listen to any show that I enjoy. So I started listening when I moved to Iowa. I just moved here when the show had started and binged all these episodes. So you guys have been with me through many data collection nights that you don't need to like go through, but it was, you know, it was always in my ear and a thing that I was listening to. And definitely in this past year, the call-in show last year was the first time I'd ever called into a show. So it's been fun, and I really appreciate, you know, you letting me come on the show and talk about science whenever I had a crazy thought, and people being really receptive, because it has been a tough year to be a scientist. So I always really appreciate that people were really excited and, you know, open to talking about science. And so that's been fun. It's been a nice platform for me to talk about what I do in my life too.
Well, I personally think you're very popular among the listeners. Everybody loves Dr. Nicole Green. You've become a Supergirl Radio staple.
So I learn things when you pop up.
Right. No, I love that. It's always been a really fun community. And like Donna mentioned, you know, talking to people in the chat, talking to people in Twitter. I got to meet Rebecca in person.
Yeah, we hung out in Metropolis.
Yeah, so like that's the first time I think I ever met anyone off of the internet that I didn't have like a work related reason to do that. So it went really well. You should meet people for sure off the internet in a safe space.
Just make sure you're in buildings that have air conditioning. That's the only downside of our day together, is it was so hot in Metropolis that we all kind of suffered through it. But I think we had a good time, and it was really fun to hang out with you, and the workmans were there as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we're gonna make that an annual thing, but maybe we could consider it if you've got the time. But I think that is a great thing to think about, that maybe, you know, I don't know if we could arrange some sort of Supergirl Radio meetup somewhere sometime, but maybe we could think about doing something like that. That would be really fun. So but I appreciate and again, I can't speak for Morgan, but I think here at Supergirl Radio that we really appreciate your contribution to the podcast, whether it's in the chat or on the stream with us, sharing your expertise in these matters. Because Morgan and I don't know anything about some of those scientific issues, so we need to rely on contributors to the podcast to help us understand some of these things.
And I'm happy to always contribute my expertise around, you know, important things like safety and what you should wear in the lab, which is where the real fun lies, I feel like.
That's actually really important, and it helps us understand where Lena's going wrong in some of these aspects. And I don't know, before
open-toed shoes, finally. I feel like finally she listened to the podcast. And
yes. I hope that secretly Katie McGrath has listened to all this and they're just laughing on set to all of the wardrobe comments that you've made over the years.
I'd like to think that we've influenced the show for the better. That we have contributed to the show in that way that really changed things, some things around. So that's what I like to think. But who knows what they do behind the scenes. Before we let you go, Dr. Nicole Green, I did want to show you something that I put together for you as like a little bumper, because you know we're all about graphics and bumpers here on Supergirl Radio on the live stream. So feel free to tell me if you hate this. We will never use it again. But just in case you do come back, and it's very short, don't expect something long and drawn out. But I did create a little bumper for you. So here it is. Science. And that's it. That's really it. That's it.
I love it. I love it.
So next time we bring you in, we will introduce you with that bumper. So anyway, well, thank you again, Dr. Nicole Green. I always like to say doctor just to give you that respect.
I appreciate it.
You deserve it. You worked really hard for that. So thank you, Dr. Nicole Green, for coming on the live stream for this week, but also for all the ways you've contributed to Supergirl Radio, and for being part of our little community and being just another Supergirl fan. It's good to always meet new Supergirl fans and other Supergirl fans. Yes. So we say goodbye to you, and we will bring our next person on. Let me make sure that I kick Nicole out. And it looks like new Rachel is in the wings. It looks like she's ready. So nice. Rachel, if you are ready, we're going to bring you in. So how are you, new Rachel? Oh, it looks like you might be muted. We might need to get you to unmute yourself, because I can't do it on my end. If you can hear us, unmute yourself.
Can you unmute? It's the bottom of the screen.
There we go. There we go. I feel like I'm doing sign language sometimes, like unmute.
I can't hear.
So how are you doing, Rachel?
Good. It's really cold in my basement.
Well, it looks like you have a great hoodie to wear to warm you
Yeah.
up. For listeners who are only listening to the audio, New Rachel's got a wonderful Supergirl hoodie that she's sporting.
I've got that one too.
Yeah, Morgan has that.
Yeah,
what was the store that
Quality.
I got it from Hot Topic.
Hot Topic, yes.
I think it was on sale. It was around when I started listening to the podcast, actually. I think like a week before I started listening to the podcast, I got this hoodie from Hot Topic.
Yeah, it was a while back. Actually.
February 2017.
Wow, good memory. I am so mad at myself because I didn't get out there in time to get one, and so now I'm kicking myself.
I walked into the Hot Topic and I was like, "Am I back in high school?"
But the hoodie is really cool, so it's worth it, even if you have to walk into.
And
Hot
I also
Topic.
have
nice
Funko. I got this from Barnes and Noble. Because they were selling some of them at Barnes & Noble around when season 4 was premiering. I made sure that I was going to go home from college and get myself to a Barnes & Noble so I could get it.
Treat yourself. So
Nice.
that's an awesome Funko to pick up. Well, Rachel, we are asking everybody 2 questions. So looking forward to your take on them and your answers. So the first one is, what aspects of the CW Supergirl would you like to see in future stories about Supergirl?
All right. So I was thinking about this during work. And so I actually wrote it down in my notes on my phone.
I appreciate that you made notes. That makes me so happy.
Nice.
I have a few things on here, but some of them were already touched on, like Kara and Alex and the family that they form in John. And the one that I don't know if anybody else is going to mention, what I said is Jesse Rath as Brainiac 5. I hope that he someday gets to play him again in live action or animation. I never seen Jesse in anything before, so when he was cast, I wasn't sure about him. But seeing how big of a fan he was really nice. And I found myself looking forward to each tweet or Instagram post he did, because I was becoming a fan of his even before his first appearance. And I was a fan of Brainy the character from watching the Legion of Superheroes animated series. His talent and embodiment of the character shone through the makeup and bad wigs at first. And in season 5, after he became uninhibited, he got a great look to match his acting. But he was massively underserved by the writing, and I think both of them, both Brainy and Jesse, deserve better.
That's such a good suggestion, both seeing Brainiac 5 in the future, but also seeing Jesse back in some capacity. Because a lot of times, shows and movies like to cast, what do they call it, Morgan, when they have like people that they bring in as cameos? There's like a certain
special guest stars.
There's a term that people
like a
use.
Legacy casting.
Yeah, but there's like a stunt casting is what I'm thinking of. That's the term I'm thinking of. So they try to cast people that's going to really get people excited about things, and I think he would be a good addition in a future Supergirl story, because he does. I'm delighted by Jesse because he does seem to love these characters so much, and he's been a great representation of Brainy on screen and off screen, I think, and so it would be great to see him back in some capacity. Is there anything else in your notes?
I also had down that I love Kelly Olsen, and I'm so glad that Ozzy Tesfaye got to play her and give her a good story. And I love what she and Kyler did with Alex and Kelly's relationship.
Yeah, I would like to see more of Kelly as Guardian. I think that would be really cool to see Kelly's Guardian, or Kelly Guardian if you're a Supergirl Radio Patreon supporter. But I would love to see her Guardian pop up in a Supergirl story in the future. That would be really, really cool. All right, so Rachel, are all those your suggestions for our first question, or do we have any
one more? I really like that the show invented the House of Elcrest standing for El Mayara, or Stronger Together. I think that was a really great unifying theme of the show.
Yeah, because typically I think it was Birthright. Mark Waid, I think, was maybe the first one who established that the S shield actually meant something other than just Superman. In Birthright, I believe he sort of established it as the symbol for hope,
which was carried over
on
into the
Krypton.
movies.
Right, right. So yeah, they could play with that in future comic books or TV shows or movies, that it actually means El Mayara, stronger together. I think that's a cool suggestion, because that really fits Supergirl particularly. Mm-hmm. Well, those are great suggestions. And so now we're going to get to our more deep, thought-provoking question. So we're gonna hear your answer for it. So, New Rachel, how has Supergirl, the TV show, impacted your life?
Yeah, I think I've talked about this before, but because of Supergirl, I got back into writing and have met some of my best friends. Shout out! I don't know if she's listening, but if she is, shout out to Elektra. I think she's in the chat for a lot of these episodes.
Yeah, shout out to Elektra. I believe it's WWF.
Yes.
She contributes to the live chat in great ways.
Yeah,
I think she's one of our great fact checkers in the live chat.
I think that's true.
Big shout out to Elektra WWF. So yeah, that's awesome that the TV show seems to have inspired people to write, to podcast in some capacity on their own, or to have other creative outlets. So I think that's really wonderful.
Yeah, I wrote a novel-length fanfic with Supergirl Radio in jokes. Because of the show, I put in a joke about the desk beds.
Yes!
In my season 2 rewrite, and I did. I think I also had Kat specifically mention the Pelicans.
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
Will you send us links to that so we can include those in our show notes?
Yes. I will send screenshots of where I put that in there.
Very awesome.
I was also introduced to the Arrowverse through Supergirl and to the rest of the DC TV podcast network. And because I hadn't watched any of the other things that Supergirl was in before, Melissa was my first Supergirl, and I first wanted to watch the show to learn more about Kara's character. And because I have watched the show, I've started reading the comics and reading and watching other DC things. And I don't know where I would be if I hadn't first watched the pilot on CBS when I was 19.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad it's inspired you to read more comics and to get into some of the other TV shows. You could be part of the Morgan Glennon podcast universe with covering some of these other things. And listening to some of the other podcasts on the DC TV podcast network. We basically cover almost everything, pretty close. So if you like any of the other shows, we probably have a podcast that talks about
got something for you.
Yeah, I send memes to the Batwoman podcast every week.
There you go.
Nice.
So thank you for not only.
And I love the Legends podcast. I'm keeping up with the fan tasty draft that you're doing.
Yes, you're very helpful.
Yeah.
Because we have no idea what's going on, if I'm being honest.
To see what that's all about. Yeah.
Well, thank you, New Rachel, for not only contributing to Supergirl Radio, but contributing to all the various podcasts on the DC TV Podcast Network, because we all could use some help, I think. So thank you for, and even being on the podcast, you've guest hosted before. So thank you for the many ways you've contributed to Supergirl Radio specifically. Well, any final thoughts before we let you go?
Yeah, I would also like to shout out this book, The Flash Crossover Crisis, Book 2, Supergirl Sacrifice by Barry Lyga. It's really good. There are 3 books in this trilogy. There's an Arrow one, a Supergirl one, and a Legends one. I think that the Supergirl one is my favorite. It has the whole cast, and it's got a really great story for Kara. And it would be really fun to see an episode about it.
Okay, that's I remember that being on my radar a while back, but maybe that'll be another episode of the book club that we'll have to have. So we're just really, the book club is just a way to get me to read more books.
I love the book club. I love books.
I love the idea.
So we'll have to do some more of that. So we'll add that to the list for future book club episodes. All right. Well, thank you for joining us, New Rachel. And if new viewers or listeners have come to Supergirl Radio. New Rachel is New Rachel because there are lots of Rachels in the DC TV podcast
So
network.
many Rachels.
But we have a soft spot in our hearts for New Rachel, specifically here on Supergirl Radio. So thank you for being a part of what we do. We will have to say goodbye to you now, but thank you for joining us, and we will have to get to our next person to bring onto the live stream. And it looks like we have a username CM Gutier 74, but I think also known as Claudia. So we're going to bring Claudia in. How are you doing?
Very good. Very good. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you great.
Okay. If I could just take one moment, I wanted to immortalize my favorite dog in the world. This is my dog, Falcor.
Oh, he's so cute.
He's not white, but you know, if you're an 80s kid, you know the name Falcor.
Oh, yeah. Never ending story, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
And I have my other one. I won't show him, but his name is Fizzgig. So if you're an 80s kid, you know that one too.
Nice. Well, shout out to all the dogs in
Thank
the
you.
Quality dog names, I must say.
I've already decided. Okay, whenever I get other female dogs in the future, because I will, because I have a pack of 6, and eventually I'll have to expand my pack. I already have. If I can get a light dog, I would name her Kara, and if I have another black dog, I would name her Lena.
Perfect. I love it.
Yeah.
So
I have one. I'm sorry. I have one. Her name is Minnie. But if I had been into the show by then, her name would have been Lena, and I would have been so upset because she is dumb as a sack of rocks. So I'm so glad I didn't name her Lena. Oh, thank
So now this is starting to make me think that when we do cover the DC League of Super Pets, maybe we should have listeners come on and bring their dogs. And,
That's a great idea.
Well,
I
dogs
love
and
this.
cats. We could expand it to dogs and cats.
Why not?
And
Why not?
have some pets on the live stream. I think that
Hey,
might be a
somebody
fun
out
way to
there probably has a horse.
You know
Oh
what?
my God, get the horse in there.
We'll take a nod to Comet the Super Horse any day. So maybe we'll bring some animals on the DC.
Well,
DC
now with
League of
season
Super Pets
3,
stream.
I mean, I'm sorry, now with season 6, if somebody has an iguana, they can put on their shoulder and walk around in a museum.
That's true. Take that
Iguanas
iguana
count.
with you everywhere. That's what I've learned from Supergirl.
Well, that's awesome. So we'll have to maybe do that in the future. So, Claudia, we are asking everybody 2 questions. So the first one is, what aspects of Supergirl, the TV show from the CW, or originally from CBS, which aspects of the show would you like to see in future Supergirl stories?
A lot of people have mentioned the ones that I was interested in before, like Mark with mentioning Alex, and I know Tyler with Martian Manhunter, and even Donna with like Red Daughter. Love that. But for me, one of the things I would love to see in another iteration someday in the future is to see a team up with Mixie. Because to me, that was so good. All the stories I had to do with him, I was like, dude, this guy's crazy insane. I want to see where that goes. Because you never know what he's going to do. And then, but also another thing that popped into my head is literally at the very end, the last episode, that's when we find out that Kara was offered the job as the chief editor?
Editor-in-chief, I believe.
Editor-in-chief, there you go. And I would love to see it, like if they do a movie or a show, showing later Kara, what she does in that capacity, and as a leader, basically, of Catco, and just kind of see what does that look like? What does Catco under the leadership of Kara? What does that look like?
Yeah, that would be a really great Kara story.
Yeah,
about
and also
Kara.
but also, shocking. But also, on top of that, with her leadership with Catco, is she's also out to the world as Supergirl. What does that world look like?
How does that impact her family and friends and her ability to be a superhero? Yeah, that'd be cool.
Does Supergirl and the Super Friends, do they get attacked all the time? Do they have to defend themselves? That Lena said, hey, anybody who comes after us, we're going to,
Yeah, so that would be really interesting to see, because it did seem to sort of set up another show that could be possible.
It did.
That would actually be pretty interesting. So I think those are really great suggestions. I really love, especially Kara and Mixie spending more time together. They did have such a really good dynamic, and they They
yeah.
because Mixus Pitalik is kind of a nuisance character. He's kind of a pest. And
Yeah.
so I kind of at first I was like, I like it when he's a pest, but then I sort of warmed up when Thomas Lennon came in, and he was
Yeah.
more whimsical, and he kind of played it in the capacity of Supergirl's sidekick in a little bit, in a few ways. And so I like that dynamic that the two of them had with each other. So that's a really good
Yeah.
suggestion.
Yeah, I swear, I love Thomas Lennon's version. Oh my lordy, I could watch him all day. Oh, especially him with Alex, because Alex didn't like him, and he's like, like, I know you don't like me, because that made me laugh so hard.
Yeah, he brought a lot of good comic relief on
did.
the show, and it
He
would
did.
be nice to see him pop back
Yeah,
up in
absolutely.
some future story. Well, those are some great suggestions. Thank you for offering them. So now we're
you.
going to get to our second question, which is, how has Supergirl, the TV show, impacted your life?
Okay, very good question. I don't read comics, so I do not know anything about canon or anything like that. So to me, any direction the show went, I went with it because I don't know, any better. But what I really liked about Supergirl is it actually reignited my love for superhero movies and television, because I grew up, one of the earliest memories I have is watching Superman the movie with Christopher Reeve. And also one of the earliest memories I have is watching Wonder Woman on television. Couldn't tell you a storyline. I just knew there was a really cool lady who spun around and jumped in the sky and all these other things. That's all I kind of understood. I didn't get what was going on, but I was like, "Ooh, Wonder Woman." That's all I knew. So that show really reignited that love of the superhero genre for me. It opened me to watching the other CW shows. Like I haven't watched Arrow yet, but I am watching Flash and Legends. I'm a little bit behind, but I'm trying to watch them all, together as they're being, when they were released in real time, I guess.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
that's so hard to do. So I admire that you're doing it.
I'm constantly looking online to make sure I get the order right, because
Oh.
they reference each other, and it makes a
Yeah.
difference because,
Yeah.
especially when it hasn't happened yet on one show yet. And then also because of the show and because of that reignition of my love for superheroes, I started going to Comic-Cons. I did not, I'm a big nerd and what have you, but I never went to Comic-Cons. I don't know why I didn't, but pretty much before the pandemic, I would go to a few of them a year, and I really enjoyed it. Just being around my people, basically.
Yeah, the first time I went to Dragon Con, I walked into one of the hotels in Atlanta, and I went on an elevator, not an elevator, an escalator, and I saw a stormtrooper coming down the other side, and I was like, "My people, I am here among my people." So I totally understand. These are my people. So I totally understand. And I should specify a Star Wars stormtrooper,
Yes.
in case there are other stormtroopers in various stories.
Valid point.
But yeah, so I totally understand that delight in being around other fans and other people who like the same things that you do. So that's very cool.
Yeah. And it not be weird. It not be like, "Oh, look at that weirdo." I'm like, "Yeah, that's right. I'm wearing this t-shirt and I'm digging it. And I'm a badass here. Thank you." So it just felt really good. It's lack of a better description. You just felt normal.
Yeah.
The regular people they're the weirdos.
Why aren't you in a costume? What do you think you are?
Exactly. And Morgan, I wanted to tell you personally, I was like, it was because of your Katie McGraw interview that I found your podcast. Because when you told her about boardroom or ballroom, I was like, you said, I'm on a podcast, and I'm like,
made sure I plugged the name. Don't worry.
Yeah.
not my first day here.
It was so funny because I paused the video and I opened another window and I said, Supergirl Radio.
Oh,
and I was like,
my God,
that's a real thing. So I said, save it. And I, bookmarked it, and I came back to it. And I said, oh my God, why have I not been watching this? Or,
guerrilla marketing, man. We're on the streets.
So again,
that's awesome. That's so cool to hear.
Yeah. So it was that one interview. So thank you. You broadened my world. So.
that delights me that is how you discovered Supergirl Radio.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's a great way to come in.
It's funny that you mentioned Comic Cons because now that makes me like miss it's because it's been a while. Makes me miss Comic Cons. Like it's
Yeah.
been since before the pandemic. I think I missed the last Comic Con because I had my wisdom teeth removed, so a lot less fun than going to Comic Con. But yeah, so it's been it's been a couple years, and I do miss that. As you're saying, camaraderie. I think my friends and I call it like nerd summer camp, which is just like you're all in this together. You're like, are you going to the bar? I'm going to the bar. Let's go.
Let's go. And what I thought was, well, just like what you're saying, I missed the Comic Cons, and I had the opportunity just to go to one so far since the world kind of reopened. And but right before the world shut down, I was supposed to go to the Dallas Comic Con, and I was supposed to get autographs and a photo op with Brandon Routh, because this is when he was leaving Legends.
Oh.
Yeah, and I love him. I loved him, his Superman. I actually really enjoyed his version of Superman. And then also with Katie Lotz, I really was looking forward to meeting her. And then dream shattered, gone. They canceled everything, of course, but man, I'm really hoping I have that opportunity to see both of them too again.
Yeah, I hope that for you too. And then I think if they're available, I think they go to those. So hopefully you'll get another shot at the two of them specifically.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for hopping in Supergirl Radio again, because I believe you were on our first call-in show that we did.
I think so. Yeah. I was wearing my do-rag.
Yeah. So this one is a little more happy, I guess, in some ways. The other one was kind of a downer.
You had a cupcake. Remember,
I had a lot of cupcakes. I was really leaning into the comfort food after learning that Supergirl had gotten canceled effectively. So that was good.
Just a quick comment. The do-rag that I was wearing, I got that one at a Comic-Con, and it was a never-ending story.
Ooh, nice. It's good to know that you love the never-ending story, because I never get a chance to talk about that with anybody, so I might hit you up sometimes.
Telling you, man, I love it. I love that. What do you call it? The swamp of despair, whatever that was. Oh, it makes me cry every single time. Even as an adult, I'm sitting there like.
Some of it's a little scary. I'm gonna be honest with you.
But that's what made 80s kids movies great. They were dark.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They really were.
They taught us hard lessons, but I like to think we're better people because of it.
Yeah, I agree. So stay tuned for some questions about Never-Ending Story from me. I'll probably hit you up with that sometime. I'll have to do a rewatch, and then we can talk about it.
Okay,
so that's
sounds
awesome.
Like a plan.
That's awesome. Well, good to know. And so thank you again just for contributing to Supergirl Radio with all your feedback and your appearances in the live chat and on the live streams. So I think Supergirl Radio is fun just for Morgan and I or Morgan and me, maybe Morgan and me to do it. But I think it's a lot more fun when we can add different voices and have more people be part of what we do. So thank you for your contribution to Supergirl Radio.
Well, thank you very much. And again, I really appreciate you guys doing this show. You make a lot of people happy. I'm just letting you know.
Well, we enjoy doing it. So all of this, it makes us happy as well. So thank you for being with us on this live stream. We're going to kick you out now and get to the next person. So let me get Claudia removed from the stream here. And then we are going to go to Alanis, it looks like. So Alanis, if you are there, can you hear us? Sometimes we are kind of letting people have to wait. So Alanis, are you there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
We can. So how are you doing? Thank you for waiting. I know a lot of people have been waiting in the backstage area, so thanks for being patient and staying with us. So how are you today?
I'm so nervous.
No, don't be nervous.
Right now.
We're just some fans talking Supergirl with each other. So I guess we could start talking about our first question that we're asking everybody. So what aspects of the CW Supergirl TV series would you like to see in future Supergirl stories?
I thought about, first, English is not my first language, and I'm also nervous, so I really hope
you're doing great so far.
Okay. I really enjoyed Nixley in the last season, so I hope I can see her in the future. I enjoyed Nixley a lot, so that is I think it's a good choice because I thought about something else like Alex and Lena, but everyone said it already. So
Nixley's a great suggestion. She, as far as I know, and we'll maybe have to do a character spotlight on her, but as far as I know, she was just kind of a blip in a Superman comic once. And so she doesn't really have a lot of comic book mythology behind her. So I would personally love it if Nixley showed up in some future Supergirl story, because she, even though the ending for her was maybe not as great as I had hoped it would be, for as a character throughout the season, I thought she had some depth to her. Peter Sargent, who played her, was really good, and I think she was a kind of a delicious villain there for a little while. So I think she would be a great foe for Supergirl in the future. That's a really good suggestion.
yeah, I feel like we didn't get like enough of her. Like I want to see more of her. I feel like Lex Luthor, like I like honestly Lex Luthor again. Like I could get Nixley for season 6, and I would be like, okay, enough of Lex Luthor, honestly.
So what would you like to know more about Nixley if you could know more about her?
Everything. Like we didn't get enough of her in season 6. Like more about her backstory, something like something else with her and Supergirl, because I mean she was like in the show and she get like some cool scenes with Supergirl, but I think that could be developed, I think it's said correctly, better. Like I feel like she could have had like a better ending, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there probably are lots of Nixley's stories that you could tell. I would be really interested in learning more about the fifth dimension. How does it work? What is it like for Nixley? Because when we saw Nixley with her father, it seemed kind of normal. Like it didn't seem fifth dimension-y. I don't know what that would look like. But I think it would be a great way to explore the fifth dimension by having Nixley. Maybe Supergirl could somehow go to the fifth dimension with Nixley. Those are the kinds of things that I'm thinking of that I would like to see her be part of. So I think
That would be really
that's a
interesting.
good suggestion. Morgan, what would you like to know more about with Nixley?
Yeah, I just want to know like maybe like more about her backstory, like a little bit like before Nixley ended up in the Phantom Zone and went evil. Like was Nixley living kind of a normal life where she was like, my dad's just kind of terrible. What if we overthrew him? Like I want the story of how they decide to like overthrow, like would we all be on her side? Would we be like, yes, Nixley, go? Like I think like a Nixley prequel, I think I would be really interested in.
Would this be like in the vein of like the Tudors or some of those like shows based on royalty?
Yes,
that I'm sure
exactly.
you've watched. Yeah.
Oh, speaking, we like literally just started rewatching for Mike first time, but watching the Tudors. So yes, I want like a Tudor style. Like there's court intrigue. Everyone's like, why is she wearing that color? What does that mean? Like that's like the Tudor / Gossip Girl version of Nixley's life. That's really what I'm here for.
Yeah, there are lots of Nixley stories that you could tell. So that's a great suggestion, Alanis. Hopefully we'll see Nixley show up in a future Supergirl TV show or movie or comic. And so now we're going to ask you another question. How has Supergirl, the TV show, impacted your life?
Well, I get to meet her. Like I didn't know Supergirl before the show. Like I didn't know like any other superhero show was like so hyped like I was with Supergirl. And
so I assume you've become a fan of Supergirl because of the show. So that's great to know that it made you a fan. That's awesome.
Yeah, I was like, I never read a comic book in my life, and I started reading the comic book because of Supergirl. Like I wanted to know more about Supergirl.
Very good. Well,
That's awesome.
there are lots of comics to read, so I hope you have a lot of time to read them.
I went specifically to a Comic-Con here in Panama. I'm from Panama. Just looking for a Supergirl comic book. I found it. I found it was Supergirl Rebirth, I think.
Yeah, Rebirth is a good place to start. It's it's a new take on the character. You get some director bones in there.
You do.
So
I was excited about that one.
Yeah,
I heard it here in Supergirl Radio. I was like, that's interesting. Like Director Bones, I want to know about him.
The world famous Director Bones.
So Rebirth is a pretty good entry point because you get some Batgirl was in there, the Phantom Zone is in there. I was
like, this is what the Phantom Zone could have been like.
Yeah, there's a lot of variations on how people have depicted the Phantom Zone, which is really interesting. We could maybe do an episode on the Phantom Zone and the various depictions of the Phantom Zone. That's actually a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Rebirth is a good place to start if you haven't read Supergirl comics before. But really, any Supergirl comic is a good place to start. Just find one you like and get into it. So I'm glad to hear that you've started to read some of the comics and see different interpretations of a Supergirl, but especially for a TV show fan, that's the Rebirth era is a good one because it is so close to the TV show. It would be an easy entry point for anybody into the comics. Yeah. Well, that's awesome, Alanis. Do you have any final thoughts before we let you go?
Well, first, thank you for having me. Sorry about if I like mess up a little bit.
You're great. You're great.
Well, thank you for making this podcast. I really enjoyed listening to you. And that's pretty much it. Thank you for doing this podcast.
Well, thank you for listening and being part of Supergirl Radio and for all the ways that you contribute to it and for being with us for this live stream. So thank you for that. All right. So we are going to let you go, Alanis, and we are going to add in our next person. I like that this, this format. We're getting to getting to sometimes see new people or talk to people in a different way. I like this format a lot.
It's fun, yeah. Like, come on.
Who's gonna be next? Who's gonna pop up? It's kind of a surprise for people watching. They don't know. I mean, we know who's next, but
we know, but they don't know.
So this is kind of a fun way to do this. So maybe we'll have to do it again in the future. All right. So it looks like our next person in line is Irmgard. So we are going to bring you in, Irmgard. How are you? Are you there? Can you hear us?
I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All righty then. How y'all doing tonight?
Doing
Great show
okay.
So far.
Doing okay. I'm glad you're able to join us and contribute to our call-in show format. So Irmgard, we have two questions for you. The first question is, what aspects of the Supergirl TV show would you like to see in future Supergirl stories, whether it be a comic or a movie or another TV show?
Let's see. Centennial Guardian spin-off show where they move to Midvale, take care of Eliza, and Alex becomes the sheriff. Kelly still does her social work, and we get to see Esme going to school. I would love to see that show.
You just pitched an entire TV show.
I know. That's a whole universe.
Yeah. I like that you mentioned Eliza too. Nobody's really talked about Eliza, but I think Eliza and Jeremiah. I would put Jeremiah in there.
Poor Jeremiah.
He's forgotten. He's in the woods somewhere. But yeah, I like this spinoff potential that Alex is now the new sheriff because of all the sheriff problems that they had when they were in Midvale. The sheriff was not a good dude.
So Alex would be perfect. I thought about it because they had mentioned their grandmother before had I think it was Alzheimer's. And I do believe they say it's hereditary. So what if Eliza slowly starts getting Alzheimer's? And that's why Alex and Kelly have to move to Midvale to start taking care of her.
That would be a good reason to do that.
And once in a while they get to fight a baddie. in their Sentinel Guardian outfits. So
That's a show I would watch. So that's a great pitch. And yeah, and Alex continuing to be Sentinel. Sentinel could show up in a comic or another Supergirl story somewhere down the line. I think that's a great suggestion. We've talked a lot about Alex, wanting to see Alex again. But would we want to see Alex as Sentinel? So I think that is definitely a possibility in the future. I don't know what the issue is, because Alex didn't show up in Rebirth, but Jeremiah and Eliza did. So I don't know if there was some likeness issue that happened with that. So I don't know if we can overcome that now that the show is not on the air anymore. So hopefully we'll get to see Alex show in the main continuity of the comics. But definitely you could bring her in as Sentinel for sure if you do bring her in. So those are great suggestions. Do you have anything else you would like to share? Did we lose Irmgard? Irmgard, are you still there with us? We may have to go and come back to Irmgard for the second question. I think.
Ideas.
Oh, no. Oh, there you go. Well, maybe my internet was
Can you hear me?
acting up. Yeah, I can hear you now. So Irmgard,
Okay.
were there any other suggestions that you wanted to put out there for things that you wanted to see in future Supergirl stories?
Midvale spin-off with Isabella and Olivia in the roles. That would be great if they could do it.
I would watch that immediately. You wouldn't even have to sell me on it. I would watch it. I would watch it just from the pitch. That would be. I mean, there's a lot still left unexplored in Midvale. In the Silver Age of Supergirl in the comics, there's a lot of Midvale stories, but I think the iteration that we were presented on the show, I think there's still a lot to be, shown and depicted, and stories to be told. So I think that's also another good suggestion.
Yep.
Is there
Go ahead,
anything
I'm sorry.
specifically, I was just going to ask, is there anything specifically within like the Midvale era that you would want to see? Morgan, are you having trouble hearing Irma?
Are we it sounds like we might be losing you a little bit.
She might be traveling at the moment. So the internet might be coming and going. Irmgard, are you still there with us?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes,
I'm
we
still
can hear you
here.
now.
Hello?
Yeah, it sounds like the internet is kind of coming and going.
Well, I just went through. I just went over the state line of Colorado, so that's why.
Oh, come on, Colorado! Get your internet together. Come on.
We've talked about this.
Well, I just wanted to clarify with the Midvale stuff. Are there any aspects of the Midvale story that you thought that they didn't show that you would want to see?
Well, now that Crisis happened, I guess Kenny, Kara, and Alex could start doing their Scooby-Doo thing.
Yeah, we could bring Kenny Lee into future Supergirl stories. He was a big deal for Kara in the show, so I would love to see Kenny Lee show back up. I mean, we brought him back to life. We might as well do something with him. So I think that would be awesome. I think that would be really awesome. Okay, so the second question, Irmgard, for you is a little more serious, a little more deep and thought-provoking. How has Supergirl, the TV show, impacted your life? Oh no, we might lose Irmgard again.
It was too thought-provoking.
Can you restate that answer for us?
Sure. It got me a lot of new family members being part of the Supergirl fandom TV show. Can you hear me?
I think, yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. And second of all, I got to form with a few friends the Supergirl Emmy Squad, and we got to give out the Couch Awards for the last 3 years, and we'll do it one more year this year. So
yeah, that's awesome. I appreciate the way you've not only been a fan, but you've helped contribute and reinforce some positivity about the show. And I think that's a great way to kind of put some good things out there about what the actors have been doing and what you like about the show. So I think that's an awesome way to continue to expand things, and that's something that hasn't been there within the fandom. So you came and provided something from your own perspective into the fandom, and so I really appreciate that you did that.
Well, now you're gonna make me cry. Thank you. But hey, I think we all learned something from Kyla, Melissa, and David. Really, I mean, they always talked about how the whole show was a family and stuff, and I think they are the ones that projected it onto us, and that's just how it is. But then my mom always took in. If we ever brought friends over, she took them into our family and stuff. So I just learned from a great woman how you take in people, no matter if they're related to you or not.
Yeah,
So,
that's one of the great messages of the show, that you can treat your friends like family and care for them just as deeply as you would a family member, and they can be treated as if they were your family member. So I think that's a great way to consider doing that with people in real life. So that's awesome. Well, I'm glad that you've had such a good experience with the fandom and the show, and that it's enriched your life, and that you've been able to contribute to what we do here at Supergirl Radio in a lot of ways. The supporting the Patreon, and being on the podcast, and being in the live chat, and providing feedback. So thank you for all the ways that you've contributed to the podcast.
You're welcome. But thank you for having a great podcast too. I mean, and I had fun meeting you at Dragon Con that one year, so that was fun. We got to talk a little bit and watch you on the panel. That was great.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to get to meet you, and I was sorry that we didn't have more time together, but maybe in future Dragon Cons we can meet up again and talk some Supergirl there. So hopefully I'll see you in Atlanta again at some point in the future.
Oh, definitely. I have family down there, so.
See, we've already established some plans. Good.
Hey, if you don't want to stay at a hotel, my family always opens we always open our doors to anybody. So
that is a good. Thank you for opening up that option for me. I appreciate it. And I'll see you in an upcoming Dragon Con at some point. Let me know whenever you get to go.
Oh, definitely. Hey, thank you for all you all to do. Y'all really, I gotta say, you all do a great podcast always, and I'm sticking with y'all, and I'm looking forward to the future podcasts from you too.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that people want to keep going with us, because there's a lot to cover. There's a lot of great Supergirl things out there to do. We have more interviews we want to do with people. We have more comics we want to read, animated TV shows and movies that we need to discuss. So there's a lot that we haven't even covered yet that still needs to be discussed. So stay tuned and stay in touch with us, because we'd love to have you be part of that.
Oh, definitely.
All right.
Will definitely stay in touch. Hey,
awesome.
You two have a good night. I will keep on listening. The reason why y'all don't see me is because I got y'all in my cup holder, because I'm driving right now. So.
Well, that's a good place for us. I'm sure that's a very steady and safe place to have us in the cup holder. So we appreciate that you've put us in a good place where we won't be dropped on the floor of your vehicle. All right. Well, Armguard, we are going to let you go, but thanks for being with us, and we will kick you out now. And all right, let's see. Oh, she kicked herself out. So awesome. All right. So we are going to go on to say hi to Aaron. Aaron, I know you've been waiting a long time. Are you there with us?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Awesome. Yes, we can hear you. How are you?
Doing all right. How about you two?
Doing okay. We've been talking to a lot of people, hearing a lot of different perspectives, so we're excited to hear about yours. So we have two questions that we're posing to everyone. So Aaron, what are the aspects of the Supergirl TV series from CBS and the CW that you would like to see incorporated into future Supergirl comics or another TV show or movies in the future?
Well, I'm going to come up with a very original answer and say Alex again.
That's okay.
She started with the the Supergirl show. But I like what a lot of people were saying about the different angles of, seeing Alex in future iterations. And also just like, this doesn't necessarily need to be Supergirl related, but I do like Dreamer, and I'd like to follow her a little bit more as well.
So, just to follow up on that, so with Alex, are there stories that you wish you could see being told with Alex? Is there something that you have in mind of points in her life that you would want to see more of?
Not well. Like, I think everybody kind of touched on it. A little bit more like some of the growing pains in Midvale that she and Kara went through. Also, I did like Donna said something about the Red Daughter, like what made Alex that attached to, or sorry, what made Red Daughter so attached to Alex that, that was her first word. So yeah, and just kind of their sister bond that was played out throughout the show.
Okay, I'm just gonna make a pitch, and I feel like this pitch is something that I've recycled time and time again, where I would have Alex, no, maybe not Alex, maybe Kara somehow maybe Supergirl gets kidnapped or depowered, or something happens to Supergirl, and Alex has to team up with Red Daughter in order to save Supergirl. I think that's a story I would read or watch. But I think that would be cool to see the dynamic of Red Daughter and Alex, and see why, to your point, like, why was Alex such an important thing for Red Daughter? So I like the idea of exploring that a little more. That's a good suggestion. And for Dreamer, what is it about Dreamer that maybe you would want to see in a future Supergirl story?
I liked meeting like a trans superhero. I think the way that they depicted her, like before she was a superhero, was like, it just was like, here's this person that we're meeting, that was kind of new and refreshing to me versus a lot of ways that trans people were depicted otherwise beforehand. So, and then, when she became a superhero, it's like, even cooler.
Yeah, I liked Dreamer in the fact that she was sort of, and they say this in the show, that she's sort of Supergirl's sidekick a little bit.
Yeah.
I kind of liked that dynamic that Nia was in a lot of ways Supergirl and Kara's mentee, I guess. She was the understudy, in some ways the apprentice, I guess, if you
And
will.
you could tell because, like, in the beginning, she went to work, and by the end, she never did.
Was
I
not
knew
a
Kara
priority.
was going to be a bad influence on Nia. Like, as soon as they were like, Kara is going to mentor like someone, I was like, no, she definitely shouldn't.
So I think there are aspects of that dynamic I think you could explore with them teaming up to fight a villain, or to solve a mystery, or to stop a crime or something. I think that would be a really cool thing to add into a Supergirl story, to have her teaming up with someone. I think that would be a really cool story, and it would be a way to bring Dreamer further into the DC universe and the mythology. So I think that's a good suggestion.
Yeah, I think Neo and Dreamer were one of my favorite things that didn't exist in the mythology besides Alex, that the show added into the mythology, that I felt really worked for the show. And I think that they did a great job with Nia, and they gave her a lot of good stuff. And I always really liked it when we had like a Nia episode come along.
And I think Nicole Maines has a lot of pitches of her own for what they could do with Dreamer. And I personally, because I'm so confused about the connection to the Legion of Superheroes, and I think she may have talked about this with us when we interviewed her, but I think the idea of putting Nia somehow in the sphere with Nura somehow having
Mhm.
some sort of like time space continuum weirdness where they can exist in the same space. That would be
Mm.
really interesting to me if Nia
Mm.
could somehow be part of the Legion of Superheroes. So I think that's also another way that you could bring her in.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Great suggestions. Well, let's move on to our second question, which is a little more intense emotionally, if you will.
Mhm.
So how has the Supergirl TV show impacted your life?
So I'm going to keep it kind of broad, but past couple of years have been kind of hard. And well, I'll say I started watching Supergirl when it started on CBS, and have been kind of following along the way. But in the past couple of years, I kind of didn't really want to try new TV. So I went to the things that I had already been watching, and Supergirl became kind of my like thing that I watched to fall asleep to, and was just very as how do I say this, as kind of annoying as some of the Hope, having so much of the Hope speeches, it's during dark times they do actually help. So there was some of that. And then last summer I started following some of the actors, like, different things that they were doing. And I ended up writing an article for one of the sites. And that was never, I was never really a writer per se. It was just something that was, I found fun, that I discovered through doing that. So.
Well, that's awesome. It gave you a creative outlet. That's great to hear.
That's really cool.
And I totally identify with the idea of using something that you love in terms of entertainment as a little bit like comfort food. Like this makes me feel better before I go to sleep. That kind of thing. So that's how I use entertainment sometimes. I put something on and. It lulls me to sleep in a really good way because it feels, comfortable going to sleep. It makes me feel like I'm going to have good dreams about it. So I understand that, and I think that's really in a lot of ways a powerful way that entertainment and stories can help us. Because even if you had a bad year or a bad couple of years, sometimes those things, those good positive aspects of a story can give you some inspiration. So I'm glad to hear that Supergirl, the TV show, was that for you. Well, that is great.
And I wrote into. I was just going to say I wrote into here a couple of times as well.
Oh yeah, no, we really appreciate all of how the ways that you contributed to Supergirl Radio, and just for being a fan of the show. You said you were watching on CBS, and now that I think about that, that was a long time ago.
That was a while ago.
it feels like such a long time. So that's kudos to you for being a fan from the beginning, and I think a lot of our community is like that we watched from the start and stuck it and saw it through. And I think I can't say that about every TV show that I've watched, that I watched it from beginning to end and didn't give up on it. So I think we all deserve a little credit for being a fan that was faithful and loyal to the show through the very end. So thank you for joining us here on the live stream, and I hope you continue to get to write, and I hope you continue to have some of that creativity and inspiration from the show, even though it's over now. All right. Well, Erin, unfortunately, we're going to have to say goodbye to you, but thank you for being with us. And
thank you for having me.
Awesome. And we're going to kick you out, and we are going to get to the next person. And just as a reminder, if you are watching and you would like to be on the live stream, you can click on the link in the video description below the live stream, and you can be on the stream with us. And you don't even have to be on camera. You can just turn your camera off and just be audio only. That is totally fine with us. We totally understand. Well, we have two people waiting in the wings. Tiana, it looks like your device is not connected. So if you would like to join us on the live stream, you're going to have to connect the device. So continue to follow those prompts and we'll be able to bring you on. So hopefully we can get you to get that device connected and we can bring you onto the stream. And it also looks like Miriam is there. So we'll see if we can get Miriam on. Hey, how's it going?
Hi guys, how are you?
I like your kind of tropical background.
My wallpaper, just
Yeah.
constantly on vacation when I'm having lunch. It's
Oh,
crazy.
it makes me jealous. I wish I was
My
in a
mom
warm
chose it like
tropical
20 years
place.
ago and she just never changed it.
I like her commitment. I
Yeah.
think it's great.
It really puts me in a tropical vibe, and I really like that. That's making me pretty happy right now. Well, thank you for being with us. Thank you for patiently waiting on us to bring you in.
All
So
good.
thanks for sticking it out there with us. All right, so we are asking people 2 questions on this specific live stream that we're doing. So the first one is, what aspects of the CW Supergirl would you like to see adapted in future Supergirl stories?
So everyone took my answers. It's my fault for waiting this long to join the stream. To be fair, my laptop was getting fixed. I messaged Morgan earlier today.
It looked like it was a really involved process. I wasn't sure you were going to make it.
I told you I just needed to turn it on and off again. It was different.
That usually fixes it.
But Claudia had my main one, which was I wanted to see the continuation of that ending. Of that, like the season, was it 6 ending? I want there to be season 7. I want to see what happens now that everybody knows that they know she's Kara. Now what? She's doing this Catco thing for how long? 5 minutes? 10 minutes? Who knows?
That's a huge thing to have happened, and
They
we just
really
kind
shook
of
up the whole show, and then they're like, bye.
I'm kind of thankful for it because in my brain it's kind of like, yeah, it's just a season finale. They're definitely going to continue the storyline eventually, right?
So what do you have any ideas on how they could continue that? Is there anything that you would want to see explored with that?
It just some shenanigans, super friend shenanigans in which Kara is the main character and they use the supporting cast as a support. That would be great.
That's
Not just having her be there in the side going, oh, you know more than me, tell me more about whatever, it's just, or we could find out John's secret. I feel like that would be nice.
I mean, it would be nice to have the go back to have that conclusion to that mystery.
That's the real thing that people want to know.
I think in a future Supergirl Radio episode, we're going to have to go back to Jean's shocking secret because I think Mark has solved the riddle of that. So we may have to, but I'm kind of
Don't leave me hanging here. Invite Mark back onto the stream.
I'm a little mixed on it though because I kind of don't want to reveal the mystery because what if we get the answer and we're like, oh, that wasn't as good as I made it up in my head.
Sometimes not knowing is best.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we should just always have the secret be a secret.
We can just live in the mystery.
I don't know. I don't know if we should answer it, but maybe that'll be a future Supergirl Radio episode that we do. Yeah, I think it would be really cool to see the fallout of Kara's big decision there with Catco, and that's definitely something that you could explore, and definitely a Supergirl comic, and maybe like a future TV show. You could have her start at that position where she is the editor-in-chief at Catco. Yeah, that's a big monumental thing for to have happened to that character. So it would be nice to see it.
Sorry to cut you off, but especially because in the 100th episode, they were making such a big deal about people not knowing. It's like nobody can know who she is because then they'll just kill off everybody.
Yeah, everybody will die.
So I just want to make sure that nobody dies.
No, we just want to check in on everybody, make sure everybody's okay. Yeah, I think that would be a really cool story to explore for sure. Well, we are also asking people as a second question. It's a little deeper, a little more thought provoking. So how has the Supergirl TV show impacted your life?
Supergirl was the first Arrowverse show I watched. It was the thing that got me into it. I think it was before season 2 aired, and I wanted to avoid some sort of deadline for sure. So I just started binging that, and then The Flash showed up on the 8th episode or something like that. I was like, sure, I'll give The Flash a go, and then that just hooked me into everything. And now I'm just part of this universe that also includes the podcasts.
I think we're part of the Arrowverse universe. I mean, at one point we were in the wiki. I don't know if we still are. Supergirl Radio used to be part of the Supergirl Wikipedia.
That's how you know you've made it.
Yeah, I mean, I felt good about that. But I don't know if we're still in the air. Somebody will have to fact check us and look us up in the Arrowverse Wikipedia and see if Supergirl Radio is still there listed in the Wikipedia. But yeah, I think it's I feel like we're part of it. But yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned like seeing the Flash on Supergirl and then getting hooked on the Flash. It's funny.
I did it in a weird order.
Well, but you know, it's funny. Like if you watch the first season of The Flash, that's just gonna reel you in because the season 1 of The Flash is one of the best seasons of television, in my opinion, ever made. So that's a way that will get you into the rest of the Arrowverse for sure. Well, that's awesome. I'm glad you've been able to expand out into other shows and get to know some other characters and be part of Supergirl Radio in the many ways that you contribute as a patron and as somebody who sends in feedback. So we really appreciate you putting in the time to do all of that and being part of what we do here at Supergirl Radio.
Not as much time as you guys do.
Well,
those Google Docs don't write themselves.
You think this is work, but it's really just all play.
I don't know. To me, they do write themselves. I just open them up and magically they're all there.
Somebody has to read those documents, Morgan. Somebody
That's
does.
true. That's true.
I see it as I've noticed that with a lot of podcasts, there, especially if there's two people on it, there's usually like a person who's like the organizer and like the sort of the straight man of the comedy duo, and then there's the person who does like the color commentary and adds the fun part of it, and so I think that's what we have here. I think
balance each
it's
other out.
Yeah,
exactly.
So I think that's it's just part of a podcasting duo. So we share our different talents with the podcast. So but I appreciate you being with us tonight on this call-in show and sharing your thoughts, and hopefully
from my tropical vacation.
You're sharing it's making me feel very warm and feeling good vibes from the tropical nature of your background. So I appreciate that because it's getting a little colder. It's kind of winter time. So it's nice to see something that looks a little warmer. Well, thank you for being with us. And do you have anything else that you would like to
just
go?
one quick thing, just food for thought.
Go
A
for
lot
it.
of people want Nia and Brainy to show up on Legends, right? And I'm all for that. But may I suggest, and I've tweeted with Morgan about this, Esme for an episode.
Yes.
In which she has powers replicating everybody's powers.
Oh my god.
And then they're just like, this is what a kid is? Nah.
So well, that would
what do you
be
think about
tough
that?
for Legends too, because they don't have the budget to have
The
their
budget,
regular characters
They have
have powers.
They have the $3 in duct tape that they.
Could you imagine? It's like Nate can't steal up for the rest of the season because Esme
we
did
had
it
a little
all.
Or Lena Luthor, and then her entire like thing is dressing for the wrong time period.
Yes. See, I
Now you
love
can keep
that
it.
as well. I love that as well. That I want that episode. She's like dressed in like an 80s like power outfit, but it's like the
And it's the
1500s.
1400s, yeah.
They're trying to stone her as a witch, and she's like,
I
it's
really
my heritage. How dare you?
This really writes itself.
It really does. I feel like literally anyone from Supergirl could transition over to Legends. I have a pitch for Legends, which is, what if just randomly one day Magan shows up with no explanation? That's where she's been this whole
That's
time.
in line with her character arc. No explanation.
So would she be trapped in another time period? Is she trapped in space? Like how do they
Does she
encounter
just
her?
randomly show up in the back of each episode? It's like Where's Waldo?
Oh, I like that even better.
She's just in the background. She's like, guys, help.
Do they even see her? Or
around.
Yes, in every time period, there's a painting in which Magan is in the background. How is no one seeing me?
That sounds like Legends kind of humor, I think. I don't watch the show. I
You
only
think they're
listen to
hiring?
podcasts.
I mean, I think we've got some great ideas.
Let's
I
go.
think Come on, guys.
We've just written several episodes, so I think really they should just take it from here. Awesome. Well, those are some great episodes that I wish we could see. Maybe we'll have to have an episode where we write an episode of the show, or we write a fan fiction live, just taking people's suggestions. Because I've seen people do that at DragonCon one year. I went to a panel where everybody in the room contributed to creating a villain. So you put out like, here's what I think the villain's backstory is, and somebody would write it down, and then everybody would kind of riff off that thing. So I don't know, maybe sometime down the road, I'm not promising anything, but maybe we could do something like that where we either create a Supergirl villain or we create an episode based on some of our pitches. I think that would be a really fun idea to do. All right. Well, thank you for being with us, Miriam. And hopefully we'll get to see you again at some point in the future on the live stream and be part of your tropical situation that you have there.
Probably not. I'm flying back home.
Oh, no.
To an actual tropical island. And it's a desert island.
Well, maybe next time you come on, I'll have a tropical island background. So, all right. Well, thank you for being with us. And we're going to kick you out and say hello to the next person. I think Tiana is there. So, Tiana, we're going to bring you in if you're ready. Tiana, are you there? Can you hear us?
Hello, can you hear
see
me?
If we can get Tiana on. Yes, we can hear you.
I'm talking. Are you okay?
How are you? How are you doing?
I am doing great. I'm also waiting. See, this is what happens every time you guys go live is I have to pick up my daughter from tumbling. So right now I'm waiting for her to come out. But I just wanted to say I appreciate your show. You guys are awesome.
Well, we apologize for making you wait so long. So we appreciate you staying with us. So I guess since you are in the process of picking up your daughter, we'll ask you 2 quick questions and get your thoughts on them. So we're asking everybody, what aspects of the CW Supergirl TV show would you like to see pop up in future Supergirl stories?
Well, I was a foster mom for 5 years, and I adopted my girls from foster care. So I think it would kind of be fun for Alex to have more foster kids come into her home because she has a home study, right? So if they just showed up and said, here's more children, but they have different powers, I think that would be really cool.
Oh yeah, you could have so many different stories about so many different kids, and I personally think that needs to involve the News Gal Legion, but you don't have to have the News Gal Legion. You could have
help.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would help, but I think it would be cool just to have Alex be part of.
I think they would be great in the News Gal Legion.
Yeah, I think that would be a great way to work that in. But you could just still have Alex interacting with a bunch of kids and helping them out and doing something good and positive in their lives. And I think that's such a great idea. And I think it's cool that you have that personal perspective that you can add to that suggestion. So I think that's a really, really good one. And Tiana, we are also.
I'll just go on to how it's impacted my life.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, how has Supergirl impacted your life?
Well, there was a sale on Amazon. You got the first season of Supergirl, the first season of Flash, and the first season of Legends of Tomorrow. So I spent $15 and I bought all of those seasons. And it's a good thing that I watched after Legends of Tomorrow, the first season, or I probably would have quit. But I started watching the second season of Supergirl and I almost quit. And then I thought there must be a podcast about this because I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I searched it up and I found you guys' podcast. And so I think, in my opinion, you guys are the best podcast out there. You have the entertainment and the information. And after listening to your podcast, I would like to be a podcaster. So that's what I'm trying to figure out, what kind of podcast I would like to do.
That's
Well,
awesome.
well, we're glad to hear that. It sounds like you've been with us since at least season 2 or season 3. So thank you for sticking with us for so long, and we appreciate you listening and being part of this Supergirl journey with us. So that's awesome to hear. And if you ever do have any questions about podcasting, please let us know. You can email us at supergirlradio@gmail.com. I'll share everything that I know about podcasting with you if you ever want to get into it, because I think it's great. Podcasting is a great medium because anybody can have a voice about anything. So I think that's a really cool way to express yourself if you're interested in doing that.
I'm talking.
So Tiana, if we need to let you,
my daughter
if,
just jumped in the car, so I will.
it sounds like we need to let you go, but thank you for being on with us and sharing your thoughts. And please let us know at supergirlradio@gmail.com if you have any questions about podcasting.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it. You guys do really have the best podcast out there. Keep going, and looking forward to listen to more of your podcasts. Thank you.
Well, we
thank you so
appreciate the kind words, and we will definitely keep going. So stay with us. All right. Well, that is it for our callers, if you will. We still need to workshop how to make that a little better because nobody's actually phoning in. But Morgan, I think since we haven't really talked about the 2 questions that we've posed to everyone else and gotten some great responses and answers for. So I guess I'm gonna pose these questions to you. So the first one is, what aspects of the Supergirl TV show would you like to see in future Supergirl stories?
Oh, I feel like there's been so many good ones that I'm just going to be like stealing everybody else's. But I guess I'll steal away. I think first and foremost is Alex Danvers. Like I feel like if the Supergirl TV show has added one thing to that character's mythology, it's the idea of her having a sister, and Alex and who Alex is, and I think that character was so strong, like right out of the gate, and really gave some dimension to the Supergirl character, gave Kara somebody to talk to and confide in, and we got to learn more about Kara because we got somebody that she could talk to and have those couch scenes. So in a future version, I would love if she had a sister named Alex. I think that's top one. Other people have mentioned Martian Manhunter. I love the idea of him being a mentor. I like Nia a lot. I like her eventually having a mentee. I think that that's a really fun direction that the show went. I really like this version of Lena Luthor, this kind of like mostly good, but sometimes she throws on a murdering jacket. Would I leave out that her witch turn at the end? Probably. Probably. But
would you want to see Lena as a witch further explored in a comic or a future movie or something?
Like a witch Lena, she's going through the air, she's got on a ball gown, she's maybe like a little jaunty hat. Yeah, no, I love it. It's one of those things where, like, from a story perspective, it doesn't make any sense and is ridiculous, which is unfortunately my exact wheelhouse, where it's like hard for me to dislike something like that, where I'm like, oh, she's suddenly a witch. I know I should be mad about this, but tell me more. Is she gonna wear more loose fitting clothing? So yeah, I wouldn't mind a future Supergirl, story that, where Lena is really leaning into the witchy thing. That would be kind of fun. So those are there are so many good. I think the last season wasn't my favorite, but there were so many good things that the show brought, I think, to the Supergirl mythology, whether it was like Cat Grant being her mentor. I think I would always love to have a Supergirl Cat Grant, relationship in there somewhere. We had Alex and her whole story, her coming out story, and relationship with Maggie, and later Kelly. That was all great. And Nia, and like even like the supporting characters that we had Brainy and Win, and grown man James Olsen. with his camera, and then his quick turn to vigilantism when it broke. I mean, not everything would I keep, but I think that the characters even when the show had sort of like jumped the rails entirely, the characters really kept me coming back for more because I cared about them and because the actors did such a good job. And so I think I would love it if, if we kept a lot of the characters in Supergirl's orbit in some future version of Supergirl. Like if there's always an Alex Danvers with Supergirl, or she's always interacting with Martian Manhunter or Brainiac, or Dreamer. I think that would be a nice legacy for the show to have. I think it's the characters that will really carry on past the specific plot points, like who is Leviathan or what is Jean's dark secret. When only we remember Rama Khan's Rama cards. I think a lot of people will still remember the characters, and I think that's the mark of good storytelling in the terms of those are people that we cared about for 6 years.
Yeah, we laugh about Rama Khan, but Rama Khan could see in a future Supergirl comic story arc.
Oh my God, I could totally see Rama Khan.
I mean,
because he's got that whole backstory where he's been around the whole time.
Supergirl could time travel.
He's in the background of all those pictures, like Magan. So
maybe Magan and Rama Khan and Magan. That could be like,
oh my God, Rama Khan and Magan. I love the idea
it's
that
like a buddy cop. It's like a buddy cop.
I would watch that. Like they finally go to like Rama Khan's Rama Wines, and he's sitting on the porch with his wine. And he's like, "Oh, funny you showed up, Magan." And she like pops up, and it's like that's where she's been. She's like, "I've been learning the trade of winemaking." She's like in the I Love Lucy thing with the grapes, stomping them. But yeah, no, like I think that some of the characters that they pulled from the comics who were just like little bit pieces, and they like gave them these weird backstories. Some of them I liked. Like sometimes it worked. Rama Khan is a point in reference. I would definitely see Rama Khan pop up in a future Supergirl comic. I think he could work really well in that like comic medium where he's just throwing a pile of dirt at her.
Yeah, I would love to see a Supergirl time travel story where she goes back in time and has to encounter Rama Khan in some historical time period. I think that would be really fun. So we joke about Rama Khan, but he could actually be. I mean, the potential is there.
The potential is limitless
for something. And I think Alex is such a no-brainer. I think Alex. The dynamic between Kara and Alex was just there from the get-go, right there from the pilot. And so I think now that we've had 6 seasons of that, I think for Supergirl fans, that's something that now we see as very essential to Supergirl as a character, even though she didn't have a sister previous to the TV series. But I think moving forward, if they can use Kyler Lee's likeness or the character of Alex Danvers in the comics, I think that would be something that they really should explore as they continue on. I would also put out there that I thought it was a kind of an interesting turn that they took with Win Shot, where they made him a Legionnaire. I didn't know if I would like that at first, but I think the idea that he takes the Toyman name and uses it for good and becomes an essential part of the Legion of Superheroes in the 31st century. I think I would want to see him included in Legion of Superheroes stories with Supergirl. I think that would be really cool because I did love I think it was a 2-parter in season 5 where Win came back and he was sad Win, dad Win,
and mad Win. Was it?
Bad
Win, sad Win, dad Win, or
yeah. I thought that was a great 2-parter.
of Win.
So I think I would be interested in seeing more of Supergirl maybe interacting with the Legion of Superheroes and seeing Win as Toyman be part of that. I think that would be really neat. And I also really loved Supergirl's depiction of Livewire. I thought the way they took Livewire, who had originally been a Superman villain, and made her more of a Supergirl villain, I thought was a great turn because
Livewire was so good.
She really should have been a Supergirl villain to start with, and the way that they used her and the kind of the evolution of the character over just a couple of episodes was a great character arc for Livewire, and really did a good job of showing how Supergirl could inspire people to be better. And so I think that the dynamic between Supergirl and Livewire is something that I would want to see carried on in future iterations of the character as well. But yeah, there's so many good aspects of the show. Sometimes I think too negatively about the show and the things that I didn't like, but there are so many things that that really helped me love the show to begin with. And I think there were some things that they contributed to the mythology with. And so I think there's a lot of good aspects of the show that could be used in future stories. All right, so we've asked everybody else this, so I think we have to ask ourselves this. How has Supergirl, the TV show, impacted your life?
I promised I wouldn't cry. I mean, I think, again, I'm going with the obvious one, right? But it's this podcast, and our fun back and forth and doing these episodes and talking about the show for so many years, but also our podcast community. Just we had so many people on talking about what the show meant to them and the podcast, and that's not just us talking to each other and making jokes about Rama Khan. I mean, some of it is.
That's where it starts.
He makes fine wine, is all I'm saying. But I think that the community that's really built up around the show, some of it because we like to encourage feedback, but some of it just because we're very lucky. It's just been so lovely and supportive, and people aren't afraid to send us in, how they feel about an episode or a storyline, or if we say something, that they disagree with. And I think everything's been very respectful. I've learned a lot from this podcast in a weird way. Not just, I thought I'm going to learn a lot about Supergirl comics, but I did not think I was going to learn a lot about science or the law, executive orders. We've really deep dived on many subjects. We've had social workers write in, we've had scientists and lawyers, and we joke about our different consultants that we have. But
we have a team.
I don't think that's I don't think that's a normal thing that happens to every podcast. So, I mean, I really, especially, the Supergirl podcast or a superhero podcast, I don't know that a lot of them have lawyers on call. So I appreciate that we do. I just think that our listeners are so cool and so interesting. And I like that because of Supergirl, I got to know a lot of these people, and they write us in and they tell us what they're thinking about, and I like that I get to talk to you about it weekly and everybody else. So, it's the sappy expected answer, I think, but it was this podcast is kind of what it meant to me. It's the character of Supergirl. I think I really love, and I like how hopeful she is, even though she keeps talking about hope, and sometimes it's like, enough with the hope already, right? But I think the way that she's impacted my life is just this podcast and this community. It's been so great. I got to tell Katie McGraw about Boardroom or Ballroom. That alone, I think that alone is one to check off the old bucket list.
That's a great moment. If you have not listened to it, you actually hear it every week on the podcast in the intro. But if you haven't listened to it in full, we do have an episode from San Diego Comic-Con where Morgan does recount that experience of asking Katie McGrath the question about Boardroom or Ballroom. I mean, my answer is kind of a sappy two-part answer to that as well. I was into podcasting before Supergirl Radio, but I kind of came and went with some shows, and I kind of got to the point where I wasn't enjoying it anymore. And then I went through cancer treatment. And then after I got out of that, Andy Babak from the Flash podcast kind of put it out to me. Would you want to do a Supergirl podcast? And I was like, you know what? I like Supergirl. And at the time, I had seen the movie, I had watched Smallville, I had seen Superman the animated series, so I knew a good bit about Supergirl. But doing the podcast has informed me more of her history in the comics and more about the different iterations of the character, and have expanded my love. Like, I liked Supergirl in the beginning, but now I love Supergirl. Supergirl is now one of my favorite fictional characters of all time, because I've been reading and studying the character, and I identify with her in a lot of ways. I don't look like Supergirl, but I understand the idea of the, having kind of suffered, not suffered, but having experienced a hard time in your life, and then you kind of come at it with a hopeful perspective. And so I've been there. I've kind of faced those things, and so I kind of see myself in Supergirl a little bit, even though I look nothing like her. I do sense that kind of camaraderie about her spirit and her character. And so I think that's one of the things that I came away with doing the podcast, that I've found a new respect for the character and a love for the character. And I do love doing this podcast every week. I always say it's like one of the best parts of my week. I always look forward to it. And not only is it because I get to hang out with Morgan and joke about the silly inside jokes that we have, but it's fun to get to know some of these other people in the live chat and the people who've joined us in this live stream. And it's been really fun to do the podcast. And Morgan, I have to say, to hear you talk about how much you enjoy doing the podcast makes me very happy, because sometimes I feel like, oh man, I make Morgan do a lot of stuff. I feel like Morgan has a lot of homework to do, and I feel like I make you do a lot of things with me.
I mean,
when we talk about Supergirl.
You're the one that puts the doc together, though, and like does most of the legwork. Like, occasionally I have to read a comic book, and I'm like, it's hard. So like Drew, please don't worry about that.
Well, but that makes me happy that you enjoy doing the podcast too, because I really do enjoy it, and I'm very proud of how we've come from just from the season 0 episodes that we did that also featured you, because we talked about Smallville in those days. And so it's been fun to see over the 6 years that we've been doing the podcast, how we've been able to take it to the next level every time. So we'll hopefully continue to innovate in everything that we do. So I'm immensely proud of that. And it's been fun to get to know you as a person, Morgan, and as a friend, not just a podcaster. And so that's been really fun for me. I've kind of plucked you from our days of live journal. And so it's been fun to make that connection again that we had through Smallville and carry it over to Supergirl, and just be able to hang out and talk about Supergirl and have a good time every week. And so that's been a real fun aspect of this whole experience for me. So I take a lot of good things from the show, but especially the personal stuff, doing the podcast and meeting everybody through the Supergirl Radio community. So that's my sappy answer to those questions. So thank you to everybody who was on the live stream with us. We had quite a number of people, and very patient. So I know it took a long time to get to some of the people that we had on. So really appreciate that everybody was willing to hang in there with us while we do it. Do we need to take anything from the live chat? I know we couldn't really, as we were talking to people, I didn't have a good chance to hop in the live chat and see what everybody was talking about. Maybe we'll have to do that later, because we are kind of coming up to time. But thanks to everybody who was in the live chat. Hope you had a good time chatting with each other while we were talking to people on the live stream. And I think that's going to do it for this episode, our call-in show format, discussing the legacy of Supergirl. And really, legacy is all about what you're going to leave behind, what you're going to leave behind for future iterations and the next generation. So applying that to the show is trying to figure out how the CW Supergirl is going to influence future storytelling of Supergirl as a character and her mythology. So I guess since we're wrapping up, that means we need to get to some Supergirl Radio and some DC TV plugs. If you would like to contact Supergirl Radio, you can post a comment on our website at supergirlradio.com. You can email us at supergirlradio@gmail.com. If you'd like to leave us a voicemail, you can call us at 678-718-7252. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram, all at Supergirl Radio. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, Podchaser, and Spotify, where we also have a Spotify playlist that includes music featured on and inspired by the CW Supergirl TV series. We are listed on DC's fan page, which you can find at dccomics.com/DC-fans. If you like what we do, we encourage you to give us a rating and write us a review on Apple Podcasts. If you enjoy our Supergirl Radio live streams, make sure to subscribe to the DC TV Podcast YouTube channel and hit that notification bell to get notified when we go live and wired. DC TV Podcast also has a TeePublic store, so if you're in need of new DC TV related t-shirts, tank tops, sweatshirts, onesies, mugs, notebooks, pillows, or stickers, go to supergirlradio.com and click on the TeePublic store link at the top of the page.
Supergirl Radio is part of the DC TV Podcast Network, so if you also like The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, Black Lightning, Titans, Doom Patrol, Batwoman, Stargirl, Superman and Lois, and the upcoming Green Lantern, Justice League Dark, and Strange Adventure shows, and DC TV After Dark, you can subscribe to the DC TV Podcast Mega Feed on Apple Podcasts. Follow at DC TV Podcast on Twitter, and like DC TV Podcasts on Facebook, or else. This has been a message from Hope, inhabiting the Flash vessel, also known as New Rachel.
I'm so glad people brought up Hope the AI as something to see in
Never
future
forget.
Supergirl stories. What a good suggestion.
Speaking of the DC TV Podcast TeePublic store, we have some Supergirl Radio related designs in this store. You want to drink your Rama Khan's Rama wine out of a Rama Khan's Rama wine Rama mug? You can do it.
We have Snap Judgment designs in there. We have Rama Khan's Rama wine in there if you want to pick up mugs or t-shirts. We also have, I did a commission a while back of Leslie Willis live and wired. So if you are interested in live wire stuff, we have t-shirts and mugs of live and wired, designed by the great Comiker Girl. So Sarah Luber designed that for us. So you can pick up some live wire stuff if you're a big fan of the Leslie Willis character. Also good options. All right. Well, and we would also like to thank our legion of super sponsors for supporting Supergirl Radio. These people are Michael, Sam, Anne Marie, Yvonne, Quinn, Jessica, Nicola, Leslie, Abby, Irmgard, Miriam, Cherie, Donna, Nicole, Lizette, and Faith. So thank you guys for participating in the Patreon and supporting us that way. And since it is Giving Tuesday, it's still Giving Tuesday. Maybe you have a little bit left of Giving Tuesday.
It is. We've got a little bit.
Yeah. So Giving Tuesday is a day set aside every year where people can contribute to causes and communities that they are excited about and want to support. So if you want to support Supergirl Radio, one of the ways that you can do that is through the Supergirl Radio Patreon, which you can go and visit patreon.com/Supergirl Radio. We have 4 monthly levels where you can get some behind the scenes extra stuff from Supergirl Radio. You get your regular free Supergirl Radio every week, but if you want some more Supergirl Radio, we've got lots of behind the scenes exclusive content through the Patreon account. So if you'd like to support us, that's a good way to do it.
So Donna asks a good question. What about the Flat Supergirl photography contest?
So great question. The answer is I think we're going to announce that in our end of the year episode. So we're planning to do a Christmas movie review at sometime in December. We got to nail that down, Morgan. But that's going to be our last episode of 2021. So my plan was to try to get all of those pictures gathered together because there are quite a bit. So we need to find a way to organize them so that we can look at them properly. So my idea is to kind of gather them together, put them in little folders, organize them by person, so we can see each individual submission. And it's gonna take me a little while to do. So I've set a deadline for that end of year episode so that we can announce the winner then. So expect a winner to be announced in that episode, where we're going to be discussing and reviewing a Supergirl related Christmas movie featuring a cast member of the Supergirl universe. We have not as TBD because I think we're going to have listeners vote on that one. So we will have you guys pick that for us. So it's a great question. Well, you can find me if you want to keep up with me. You can find me. I'm on the social media platform Vero at Derby Kid. That's where you can find me there. I'm also on Instagram at The Derby Kid. I also have a personal YouTube channel, which you can find at youtube.com/duckmilkprod. I'm trying to get back into reviewing the reviews of Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice from the top critics of Rotten Tomatoes. I'm doing those on Sundays. Sunday evenings now. And I think I committed to 9 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. That seemed to work out a little bit better for me. So I can be a little more consistent because Sunday afternoons seem to have conflicts on them here lately. So I'm going to try from now on to do Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. So if you want to come hang out with me while I read those reviews and comment on them, feel free to do so.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Mojotastic. You can also find me as a co-host on DCTV After Dark, presumably.
At some point.
Sarah and I need to talk about when we're dropping our annual episode now. It's gotten quite bad. And you can also find me on the Legends of Tomorrow podcast, where we just talked about the mid-season finale, and we'll be dropping that episode a little bit later this week. And then next week we're going to be talking about that weird Bebo Christmas special that who knows what that's going to be like, but we're going to find out, all of us together. So if you have thoughts and feelings about that one, maybe you've just seen Bebo, you just know about the Bebo verse, maybe you don't know a lot about Legends, but you just want to watch an animated special, what a great time to come join our podcast and just kind of listen in.
Yeah, I don't really watch episodes of Legends of Tomorrow, but I'm kind of intrigued by the Bebo animated Christmas special.
I feel like it could go in a lot of different directions, and I'm interested to see what we end up with.
Yeah, I think that could be fun. Maybe, really put me in the Christmas spirit by watching an animated special about a character I don't know very well. I think that seems like a good way to participate in the Christmas season. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio. But until next time, I'm still Rebecca Johnson.
And I'm still Morgan Glennon. And thanks for hanging out with us to talk about the legacy of Supergirl.
McGurk! I love
Not
typing.
mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira. I love that. So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom, because her outfit.
She looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. So fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Yeah!